OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Alright, you're very welcome along. It is Tuesday morning, I want to say. Is it? It is, yeah. Alright.
Sounds right.
Hump day.
Yeah.
Wednesday hump day?
Wednesday's
Tomorrow's Tuesday feels a bit more like a hump day.
something to get over, isn't it?
Definitely.
A little bit, yeah.
A bit humpy.
What feels the humpiest?
How are you out there today, Humpland?
Yeah, happy transfer deadline day to all who celebrate.
Exactly. That's gonna propel us forwards. Right.
5 o'clock. I preferred when it was 11 o'clock
The
finish.
5 o'clock thing, what's going on?
5 o'clock feels weird.
Everybody just wants to go home.
Yeah.
In fairness to them, everybody just wants to go home. And they've all got homes to go to. And like, you know, you young fellas with no commitments.
It's true.
You don't care about the ones who have to get like, got to make lunches for tomorrow.
Yeah,
and I've
lunches for
got to
yourself.
fax this thing over to Real Madrid.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, to be fair.
Will the kids be hungry at lunchtime tomorrow, or will I sign a new goalkeeper?
Yeah,
Which of
yeah,
these
yeah.
two things is going to happen?
Yeah.
Producer Cullum's told us it's 11 o'clock for the men's, 5 o'clock for the women's.
There you go.
Right. Saw a great clip last night of, I
start
think
to
it
the
was
Top quality research done at OTB AM this morning.
fair play.
Fully aware of everything that's going on in the world.
My favourite ever transfer was Dimitar Berbatov on deadline day to United, 30 million. I remember the whole Berbatov lying down in the back seat of the car under Ferguson's coat. Like I sat up very late as a kid waiting for this to be concluded. I saw a clip yesterday, I think, was it Fraser Campbell, the former United striker. Steve Bruce was the manager of Wigan at the time, and he gets a call from this withheld number late at night, and Fraser Campbell answers and says, yeah, Fraser, it's Sir Alex here. So we're signing Berbatov for 30 million, but the deal's only going to go through if you go on loan to Wigan. You have 3 minutes to decide and I'll call you back. And Fraser was like, oh, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to block United's move for Berbatov.
So what was...
Literally, I don't know how the move... I don't
Why
know
were
how
they
the move,
interconnected?
I don't know why or how.
Do you think they weren't interconnected and they were just like, here, listen, we got to get rid of this guy. What do we do? Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe it was
Make him
playing
the
chess.
centre of a massive transfer psychodrama.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I don't know what the deal was that they had to get rid of someone like Fraser Campbell, but yeah, deadline day is it's lost its luster.
Spurs he went on loan to, that was the point.
Spurs, sorry, yeah. Oh, okay, right.
A replacement.
Fair enough.
How'd that work out for him?
Yeah.
Spurs fans are delighted. Oh, we got all this money and
Legend
it's
Fraser Campbell.
clear. Our place in the pecking order is now to supply the good teams with better players. Our better players. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Berbatov worked out.
Oh.
Yeah. Fraser Campbell was one of those good players, came up through the United ranks. Berbatov was a brilliant sign for United. I remember at the time a lot of my mates were on the fence, but now looking back, cult hero status. Best first touch in world football. 100%. I wasn't asking the question. I was making the point.
Is there not an opportunity cost? Were there not better strikers in the world who would have done more? Who would have fired the team to Champions League glory? Is there not?
Well, there probably
What
were.
did he win?
But what did he win? He certainly won a Premier League.
He won one Golden Boot, did he?
Yeah,
Recollection of.
he scored a lot of goals at United.
He didn't score a lot of goals. He was top scorer once in one of those seasons where 20 goals barely got you to the top. He wasn't Messi, Ronaldo. You know, he's like. We're nitpicking here because you said he was a great signing. I don't think he was a great signing.
I mean, he was a cult hero looking back.
Yeah, he maintained the standards.
Yeah.
Maintaining's as good as
Sorry,
gaining.
and we haven't touched on this. Johnny Ward, if anyone has heard it in the crappy quiz, said Eric Cantona was overrated.
Oh dear.
And he started to make his point saying he wasn't great in Europe, and Arthur made the point back that, well, United could only play a couple of players in Europe because of the rules back then.
Yeah.
And they had Schmeichel and
He didn't do it in Europe.
international players, that is. He didn't do, but I mean, to say Eric Cantona was overrated, Johnny shouldn't be letting the show again.
No, I think that there's a large body of evidence to suggest that Eric Cantona was good, not great. That winning the league is the seminal achievement of his career for Manchester United, and therefore Manchester United fans are obviously in love with Cantona, and rightly so. He is that little Jenga piece that gets the team over the line against the might of Blackburn or Newcastle or whoever it was that they managed to fend off when they'd spent more money than anybody else.
I can see the smirk on your face. There's a slight smirk
when they were
on
the
your
Manchester
face.
City of their time, but that's fair enough. I understand that.
There's
But
a slight smirk on your
he
face.
didn't.
And I hope
He wasn't at the same level again as Romario or Stoichkov or those strikers in world football at the time who were genuinely world class. He wasn't world class. That's the thing.
Cantona wasn't world class.
But he wasn't
You said
getting
was
picked in the
good,
World
not
11.
great. He wasn't what?
He wasn't getting picked in the World 11
Eric Cantona.
as the best. Like, so, what year?
This
what
is
year
like the
did he sign for
Beckham
United?
argument, but like
1945.
Cantona's on a different level to Beckham again.
Well, in terms of your love for him, maybe, but that doesn't. You're just talking about your love, and that's fine.
No, I'm not.
This
talking
is
about my
fine.
love.
We got anyway.
No. Cantona was a great footballer. Please let us know in the comments.
Okay.
Hot take. Not me, by the way. It's not a hot take to say Cantona was great. This is Ger's.
Look, wasn't so
my
great.
point is that I think Johnny's point probably is that in European football, when they were up against the cream of the crop, he didn't perform at the same
He
level.
only played
as
a couple
he
of
did.
international players. Him being one of them, Schmeichel being another. They had others as well.
What's the point?
Chelsea.
What's it like that? How does that diminish his performance? Like, he still would have had all the amazing English players that they had. You know, I don't want to get sucked into a massive Eric Cantona debate. I love Eric Cantona. I absolutely love Eric Cantona. I think that, like, he's again, when the history
Going back.
No.
You roll
When the
backwards.
history of English football in the Premier League era gets written, Eric Cantona is one of the larger than life flamboyant figures in it.
You could say one of the greats.
That doesn't make him
the goods.
Maradona. Like, the way you're talking about is like, oh, he's up there with George Best.
No.
He's
no,
up
no.
there with any of those great Manchester United players.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
in terms of achievement, perhaps.
He's one of
But
the top 10 United players of all time.
But in terms of is he?
Eric Cantona is one of the top 10.
All right,
Manchester
okay.
United
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I would say
there's your homework for tonight. Is name your top 10 and
Right.
see where he comes.
in the 10.
Charlton, Best, Law, right? They're all ahead of him.
Right. Yeah.
Roy Keane
obviously they came
ahead of
before
him.
my time, but I'm going on reputation. Yeah, of course they have the reputation.
Yeah.
And we've seen the videos of Best. I'm not going to say he's
So we've got
above
5
Best.
there.
He's in the top 10.
Okay, well, that's your homework. It's
Okay,
your
I'll rank
homework.
them,
You
I'll
can go
rank
back to us tomorrow. 087 180 is the WhatsApp number. But I love Eric Cantona. I do. I think incredibly important. But like, that doesn't necessarily mean that like he was the best player in Europe. And that what you're talking about is,
you said he was good, not great.
yeah, he was good, not great. Like, greatness is like greatness
If
is
anyone embodied greatness, it was Eric Cantona.
greatness is Keane's performance in Turin.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
greatness is that's what greatness is. Everything isn't great just because TikTok says it's great.
No, I'm not even on TikTok.
No, I think it's
Your
it's
brain
the
is,
cult,
though.
It's the cult of his personality that propels him.
He has a great personality. He
Yeah.
was.
So did Keane, yeah.
But I'm talking about
Also, we do not need to give Johnny Ward any more encouragement. It's like
how we do.
it's like Handsome Pete in The Simpsons with the accordion. It's not a quarter. He'll be dancing for hours now.
Right, very good morning to you. We've got plenty coming up between now and 10 o'clock. I'm going to tell you what's coming up, and then we're going to talk about Rory McIlroy for a few minutes. Aiden O'Mahony is going to join us live at 8:05. He is getting the Laker Gale treatment. Is that tonight? It is tonight, yeah.
Yes.
Tomorrow night. This Thursday. Phoebe Schecter, fresh from being a breakout star on Sky Sports NFL coverage, is going to talk to us about the Super Bowl and Championship weekend, which is just over. Colin Mullaney's going to join us at 8:45 with a roundup of today's sports news. And then after that, we've got Derek McNamara previewing the start of the Six Nations, ranking the teams. We've got Deal or No Deal on transfer deadline day, which is going all the way to 11 o'clock. They don't care about your kids' lunch. And some mystery goodness coming your way at 9:30 this morning as well. If you want to get in touch with us, 079 180 180 is the WhatsApp number, or you can leave a comment on the YouTube stream. Yesterday, when we left, it was like just looking a little bit dodgy for Rory McIlroy against Patrick Reed. And afterwards, after sinking the putt on the final hole, Rory's like, I had to expend a lot of mental energy forgetting about who I was up against at the top of the leaderboard for fear it might overcome me. I'm like, this is very mature, hopefully. This is the birth of something. Because we were talking with Nathan on the show yesterday. I was like, it doesn't really matter what happens here. This is setting them up for the start of the year. But that's not true,
No.
I don't think.
No.
Like, if he'd lost, if he'd rattled that putt in the hole and it has like jawed in and come out and he misses the one back and loses, you're like, oh my God. And also, Patrick Reed killed him at the Masters. Like, broke his spirit, broke his soul. And his soul is coming back. He's now like the finger in the dike of the overwhelming power of Saudi Arabia. And it's like, can't lose that. But to fend him off.
The best part of my day yesterday was Patrick Reed's face. They didn't go to it straight away afterwards, but maybe 10 minutes after
He was kind of hiding a little bit.
he was.
Yeah, he knew the camera was there, didn't he?
But he was the dose of the day yesterday, Patrick Reed, and someone I just. But then again, golf needs those players that you love to hate, and I love to hate Patrick Reed. But maybe that's a good thing, and maybe I should be thanking Patrick for that, because I mean, we need those sports people that we detest.
Nathan made that point, and Dave McIntyre was making the point last night on the news round as well, that actually he really enjoys watching Patrick Reed. I mean, I guess they're correct that a little bit of hate watching in your sport is very important.
I don't enjoy watching him. I think that would be a stretch. I think every time he pops up on the screen, my blood starts to boil a little bit. And that moment where you can see his heart break into 1,000 pieces as Rory's birdie putt goes in the last, hook it to my veins.
Are you not entertained? Well, that's the thing. Like, if Rory McIlroy was beating a nondescript European golfer from Scandinavia or, I don't know, Asia, you'd be like, oh, Rory McIlroy's winning. But actually, this did turn into something much bigger, and you know, maybe Live Golf are doing his favour here.
Absolutely. It's like a Herculean task now, where it's like, if you are going to be one of the all-time greats, Rory, you're going to have to start ticking these boxes and beating them one by one, which will be great to watch. I mean, yeah, as you say, the villainy that Patrick Reed embodies in so many ways is absolutely excellent, and I think should be embraced. But at the same time, McIlroy and Reed and them going down, and you'd love to have seen them play together.
Yeah. Well, there was full round.
Sorry, that was the other thing they were talking about on the news end. Oh, they'll have to shake hands. I'm like, will they?
They wouldn't have shaken hands.
I don't know.
They wouldn't have.
I don't know.
No chance.
Well,
not this week. Like, they made such a big deal out of hating each other this week that, like, they couldn't then just on the tee.
No.
It was only fake. It wasn't fake.
Rory and Patrick Reed will never shake hands again.
I think they will.
They won't.
I think if they're paired in the Ryder Cup,
you don't have to shake hands. It's not like, you know, a game of snooker where before the deciding frame you shake hands. You know, famously Mark Allen and Rhiannon Evans, his ex-girlfriend, had a match last year, and very frostily Mark held out his hand and Rhiannon refused to shake his hand. There are moments where in sport the decorum is to shake hands with your opponent before a playoff in golf or before a deciding frame in snooker, but that doesn't mean you have to do it. You're not going to be fined if you don't shake their hand. I mean, Rory was subpoenaed as we know on Christmas Eve. He's not going to shake his hand ever again. He hates him.
Well, I mean, Rory changed his mind about stuff. Next week he could be over it because he's beaten him, and it's like, now he's no longer an important character in my life. I have, like...
It's good to see Patrick doing well.
Lance the Boyle.
yeah, my friend Patrick. It was that. The fact that Rory went birdie to finish it, like, and the fact that it was Rory and Patrick Reed, we were all huddled around the TVs out there. I think we would have been anyway if Rory was going for a win against anyone, but the fact that it was Patrick Reed just meant everyone was on the edge of their seats. It was kind of like, there's something riding on this. We don't want Patrick Reed to win.
Am I right in thinking this is really McIlroy's first big kind of beefy rivalry, where there's a little bit of every barb is like grist to the mill, and he feels that, oh, this is getting tasty now. There could be a proper bust up here.
Well, I think so, because I don't think he was ever really having rivalries with anybody but himself and his game. You know, he missed the peak of Tiger, came along, Tiger was gone because of the car accident, and then Tiger came back, and they were, by that stage, they were kind of frenemies, more friend than enemy at all. And obviously Tiger's handed the mantle over to him, and now he's single-handedly saving golf. And I do think it's really interesting. Like, Irish people were very ambivalent about Rory, but all of a sudden, when the rest of the world started attacking him from the live perspective, we're like, no, you can't do that. He's one of ours.
Yeah, leave him alone.
It's been great for...
Has the Irish narrative changed on Rory in the last 5 years?
Oh, we love him now.
Yeah, but there was a time where...
Well, because he wouldn't play for us in the Olympics.
Yeah, it was the Olympics.
It's so important you play for us. God, if you go and play golf for us in the Olympics, how can you consider yourself Irish? Like, well, I consider myself Northern Irish, so, you know. Well, you can't do that. You're not allowed.
I don't think the Trump thing helped either.
It says in the Good Friday Agreement.
Yeah. It reminds me of the...
Trump thing didn't help. He did say he wouldn't do it again. You know, I think when someone makes a mistake and they go, I made a mistake, then you have to admire them even more, I think, personally.
Yeah.
I think
reminds me of the... Did you see the quotes from Owen Farrell yesterday? Where he was being talked about his finding his son in the house wearing an Irish rugby jersey.
This is interesting.
For Grandad.
This is interesting. Like,
he was like, take it off.
Yeah.
We've got to give Andy Farrell a job for life, just in case his second son turns out to be just as good as
Yeah.
Owen at rugby. Because if he is, we'll have an out half for 15 years.
Yeah.
Get him in the team at 17.
Yeah.
20 years, it turns out, the way Sexton's going.
That's
I
fair.
mean-
Yeah. I mean, there's a pipeline there for
He'll
sure.
come up through our system.
Yeah.
You know, he's not wearing an England jersey.
No, it's true.
Maybe when his brother's playing, he's wearing one.
But the fact that Owen Farrell's son is walking around the gaff in an Irish rugby jersey makes me so happy inside. But the way Owen Farrell was going on, it was like you'd swear the kid went out and bought the top himself.
It's like
Clearly, an adult bought him this top or gave it the top to him.
Oh,
Andy obviously gave it to him.
did. Yeah, that was
Right. I'd love to have seen Owen's face. Speaking of Patrick Reed's face at that moment that his heart broke, to see Owen Farrell's face the moment he saw his kid in his house wearing an Irish rugby top.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic.
The other thing that happened, Shane Lowry's now on the lookout for a new caddie. The split has been amicable. I guess more details will come out in a while, but it says he's urgently searching for a new caddie in the newspaper reports this morning. So that was a brilliant partnership while it lasted. Himself and Bo, obviously.
Yeah, good friends. I wrote a little limerick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just for the some people might remember we had a segment on the show last week which we debuted called Shit Limericks.
Hashtag shit limerick.
Hashtag Shit
on
Limericks.
Twitter, if
On
you will.
Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
let's get- do you wanna
we didn't
try
get the. Cameron, you had submitted one as well. It was on Glenn Kilmacud Crokes.
Yes.
That situation, we decided to write one. So we're encouraging people to send in their shit limericks, their hashtag shit limericks. But I've written a quick one just on the Shane and Bo relationship. This wasn't exactly much thought put into this. I think we have it up on screen as well potentially. But it's called Shane and Bo. Shane said farewell to poor Bo. No more golf for the bearded combo. Needs someone new on the bag who can deal with jet lag and help his short game plateau.
Oh,
So there you go. I
very
don't know.
nice.
It was
Plateau isn't used enough. Thank you.
and
for that,
it's
Shane.
pronunciation is important because you could say plateau, or combo, but yeah, it's the way you pronounce it to make it fit into your poem.
You gotta
It's
kind of-
you put the emphasis on the right syllable.
Yes, yeah, make it scan.
Plateau.
So-
Gotta get a plateau cake. If you want them freshly baked, gotta get a plateau cake.
I think
seven-
Ger's malfunction.
7:47 this morning. Cantona definitely overrated. Beckham was a much better footballer overall. Says
Don't
Brian.
start reading out the comments that just
Bobby
go to
Dwyer
your
says
opinion here.
Cantona's overrated, not just in Europe. Never scored over 20 goals in a league season. Less than 1 and 2 goal scoring record at United. Not in top 20 Premier League centre forwards. Cantona was good, not great. The only things great about him were his personality and ability to kick fans in the crowd, says Patrick Cowell. He gets super bonus points in my
care not
eye
one
for doing
jot.
that. Paul Roxburgh says that zippy on Shane is greatness.
It's a nice one, isn't it? Yeah. Elvery's, they're doing a nice little unsponsored. This is a range of retro Ireland.
We
gear.
will, of course, take some sponsorship from you
Of course,
if you want
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Happy
USA
to-
94. Kathleen McNamara had one similar in the office recently, so that inspired me to go out and get one. They're comfortable. Bit of a retro look.
They're deadly. They look brilliant.
Are they the official ones we wore in 94?
I think so.
Right.
Certainly they're down as USA 94 retro memorabilia. So, yeah, if you want to get one, that's where I got it.
Colin says he thinks they're 96 or 97.
Could be, yeah.
The old 94 branding is more powerful than.
Well, maybe,
What
yeah.
did we do in 96? Oh, it was the end of the Jack Tartan era when we got absolutely destroyed in Anfield by a mediocre Dutch side.
True. Good
Although,
stuff.
in fairness, they weren't mediocre. They were backbone by the Ajax team. And,
Yeah, that's fair.
And then 98, obviously, we didn't qualify.
Playoffs
even
again.
though we had, good team.
Decent team. Yeah.
Peak Roy Keane. Goal scoring Roy Keane.
It's still good gear. I forget about it. It reminds us of a nice era of
Absolutely.
nostalgia.
You've
It's
got
all
a
nostalgia.
Zach Morris
No,
look to
Keane's
you
injured
today.
for the 2000s. When did Keane do his cruciate? Oh, so he misses that one. All right. I think he played a good bit of the campaign. Anyway. September 97 he does it. But have we not? Is that, the campaign's not largely... Well, maybe it's not. There's still the September and March to go.
Oh, someone says USA 94 with Adidas.
Uh-oh.
fair. I'm not going to argue. But I will argue on the Cantona point. Someone says back-to-back L's for Shane. I don't know what my previous L was, but...
Well, we all know that one.
The Limerick. I feel that's harsh.
Oh,
I thought the Limerick was good.
Cantona definitely overrated. Beckham was much better. I've already done that one. Sorry. James McCullough says Shane's jacket is class. Where did he get it? He's already told you it's Elvery's, but we're not getting any money, so you can get them in other places too. Great point, Ger. Cantona wasn't in the same league as Klinsmann, Romario, Van Basten, etc., and he failed for France.
Sorry, I'm not saying I never made the point.
you did.
Cantona's goals.
You did.
He banged in goals. He was a great Van Nistelrooy type
you said
centre
he was
forward.
great.
Yeah, I said he was great.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's a great, as in he was one of the 5 greatest players of all time, but he was a great footballer.
Look, I mean, by that case,
How is Eric Cantona not a great footballer, lads? Sorry.
What does greatness mean? The words have to mean something, Shane. You can't just go like,
down greatness.
oh, my parameters are whatever I want today.
Do you
He's great.
Do you turn the TV on to watch him?
That's totally different.
No, hold on.
You're a Man United fan. Of course you're turning the TV on to watch him.
No. If you're a neutral, you want to watch Eric Cantona as well. And also...
Paul McGrath. I might have Paul McGrath ahead of him in the...
He's a great.
In the list of 10 Man United players.
Top 10 United players. Paul McGrath. You put me on this. He's in the top 20 anyway.
Who's in the top 20? Cantona?
McGrath.
Oh,
McGrath's in the top 20.
Cantona's ahead of McGrath.
He's in the top 5 Villa players.
All right, enjoy your just back.
He's top 5 Villa players of all time, but United have had a lot more greats than Villa have had. That's a fair point. We've had far more great players than Villa.
He's in the top 5 Ireland players.
That's
that's a fact.
irrelevant.
He's ahead of Cantona.
Well, Cantona wasn't Irish, but I take your point. No, Cantona, you turn the game on because he's silky, smooth. He does have the aura as well, but he also achieved. He won trophies at United. How many Premier Leagues did he win? Was there only one season he didn't get a Premier League at United? Sorry.
Well, there was the season, obviously, he was banned. So he didn't get it that year. And then he comes back and scores the winner in like 9 goals in 9 games in a row, or whatever it is, ridiculous at the end of the season. He was a really superb player, but like Alan Shearer is a great player.
Yeah.
He's not on the level of Shearer.
No.
So, how many Premier Leagues did he win?
We're getting.
Sorry, he won 4 Premier Leagues and he was only there from 92 to 97. He won 4 Premier Leagues in 5 years. And 2 FA Cups. Here.
But lots of other players are on the team too.
Yeah, but Cantona was a fulcrum of that team, wasn't he?
Yeah, very important player, yeah.
He's also completely...
How did they do in the Champions League, even though they were like the highest spenders in wage and
wasn't he completely played out of the game in the 95 FA Cup final against Everton, which they really shouldn't have lost?
96 FA Cup finally scores a winner against Liverpool through a sea of bodies. He made up for it.
He missed the 95 one. Colin is saying he missed it because of the suspension. So there's
that's why
another
one.
No great player. If you were the best player on a team that won 4 Premier Leagues in 5 years, then you're a great player. Fact, I disagree with most of the people in the comments.
All right. Fortinstown. Is that right? Yeah. Cantona was very good, not a great. He made the difference to that team, a double winning team. But to use the cliche, he wasn't a top player. No, fair enough. I think, look, we are nitpicking here for the sake of picking of nits. FIFA confirmed, we knew this already, but obviously FIFA have officially made it official that our game against Australia is going to move from to the Stadium Australia from the Sydney Football Stadium. Did these all have previous names, or is the Stadium Australia an actual new ground? Anyway, perhaps that's because
it was for Sydney 2000, wasn't it?
Was it?
It was built, I think.
So it's the Olympic Stadium.
It was one of the stadiums built for Sydney 2000, and it's been used by the men's and women's Australian team, I think, in recent years.
Ireland are 9th of the 32 counties, so 32 counties.
Yes.
Freudian slip. Ireland are 9th of the 32 nations who have bought tickets in terms of purchasing power so far, and you have to assume that there are some people who are like sticking themselves down as fans of other countries just to get in, because we like to do that. We like to show up in the home fans and suddenly take off our tops and we're like, we're green.
Hashtag best fans in the world.
Well, this is a good opportunity for us to...
Will that sell out then, the 82,000? I'd imagine it will.
Yeah, what's 4% of 82,000?
Oh, maths, Cameron. My maths wasn't great, never was. Still isn't.
Like 3,200 or whatever.
I mean... it'll be fantastic. The atmosphere is going to be brilliant for that game.
The Six Nations starts this weekend. The papers are full of it today. We are going to be obviously previewing a little bit later with Derek McNamara. We're going to be previewing it tomorrow with Keith Wood and Nigel Owens, and we'll have rugby every day for the rest of the week basically, and every day for the rest of the Six Nations, no doubt. But you've been picking your teams, Cameron. Yeah,
it's great that we've been given a bank holiday to celebrate the start of the Six Nations. I think that was a great move by us. I've picked...
Could we just not have made it the day after the Super Bowl? Could we just not have made it the day after the Super Bowl?
I was very annoyed when I found that out, that it's not this weekend, it's next weekend.
The extra week that they've added to the NFL season has really screwed us.
Pro Bowl, man. Pro Bowl.
Not the same.
Not the same.
Right. What have you picked?
So, I've gone for a fairly pedestrian Ireland 15 that I think Farrell's going to pick. I have a few little quibbles with what he selected, but there it is up on screen. So, yeah.
Literally not a single difficult... It's like first team based on this is who you pick if you're you're at the gates of hell and you need this team to save you from a lifetime of the devil.
I don't feel like that's, yeah.
Where was that accent from? Which county was that?
I don't know.
Is that a tie?
Keep going, lads.
But yeah, I feel he's going to go very route one with his selection choices, which I kind of disagree with. I think Ross Byrne should start at 10 for Ireland this weekend. I think it'd be a great test for him. I think the kind of the pressure atmosphere of a potentially closed roof Millennium Stadium against Warren Gatland's Wales, with all that momentum that's been built and all that hype and the Welsh fans behind him, would be a great test for Ross. I think.
For our podcast listeners who haven't seen the graphic, it is exactly.
I should go through it. Yeah.
It's exactly what you would expect.
Yeah,
it's Porter, Sheehan, Furlong, Tyke Byrne, James Ryan, Peter O'Mahony at 7, Caelan Doris at 8. Sorry, Peter O'Mahony at 6, Caelan Doris at 8, Josh Van der Fleer at 7, Gibson Park, Sexton, Bundy, Gary Ringrose, James Lowe, Hugo Keenan, and Mac Hansen. Which is basically the first choice available team. The only one who you think might get in if everybody was available is Robbie Henshaw.
Yeah.
But other than that, I do wonder if Peter O'Mahony might become a sub. Not sure. Or when that's going to happen in his career, because it's going to happen at some point. And and if they, like, I do wonder if there's a possibility that they don't start Furlong in this game and that they leave Furlong on the bench given how little rugby he's played. And that's, again, that opportunity. So you have the safety of having Furlong on the bench. And, given that Sexton hasn't played either, but Sexton's the captain, there's no way he's not starting. Like, I think, to your point, starting Ross Byrne and putting Sexton on the bench and giving Ross Byrne the first 50 minutes and then bringing Sexton on to ease him back into the tournament, you could see how that might happen. But again, because he's captain, because he's been out to impress, because he's fully fit, because he wants to play rugby, because he's our best player by a mile, they're going to pick him.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think you don't start Furlong and don't start Aki, because it's the same rationale, surely, that Aki hasn't played very much for Connacht recently.
Aki's fit. Furlong's not, or Furlong has not been fit, at least to our knowledge, whereas Bundy Aki has been fit and not picked. There's a difference there, I think.
I don't know, Hugo Keenan wasn't fully fit when he came back in for November, was he? And that was his first game of the season.
Did you have you had Aki in your team there?
Yeah.
I think it's harsh on Stuart McCluskey.
Oh, I wouldn't even have thought of McCluskey. I think that's a game to bring in.
He played all the November games, and he's been, like, Ulster players. This isn't my little tiny violin. Ulster players often get overlooked.
Yes.
I think. And McCluskey has played well for Ulster. He's been one of the only players who has played well for Ulster in recent months.
Well, yeah.
One of the things that unites the GAA and rugby communities in the north is their sense of injustice and how they're treated by Dublin.
Siege mentality. Yeah, fair enough. But I think if anyone deserves a potential inclusion, it's McCluskey. Given that Aki hasn't played as well. If Aki had been playing, I wouldn't really argue against it. But I mean,
I don't know. I think if you're picking someone outside of Aki at 12, it'd be Jimmy O'Brien, surely. Given the way he kind of slotted in.
The Ulster fans. Ooh.
That's a slight, I think.
So you're saying McCluskey is 5th choice?
I'd put him ahead of Osborne.
Okay, right. Right.
Just because of his lack of test experience. I think McCluskey, it kind of depends on how they want to go about this game and what they think Wales are going to bring.
This is an insult to Ulster rugby, by the way. 4th choice, Stuart McCluskey.
Yeah, sorry, Ulster.
I think it doesn't matter what Wales are going to bring. I don't think that Ireland should be picking their team based on anything to do with this Welsh side at the moment. And since Warren Gatland's first day out, if Ireland play their game and control possession and go through the phases, we should be beating Wales comfortably. Like, this is one of those, do not give Wales any in the game, don't give them any hope, smash them, just play our game. Don't start slowly, lads. Don't start slowly, and absolutely do not give the sucker an even break.
This is we're a day late, I think, actually. This is the week of an Ireland-Wales Six Nations game, and ordinarily Ger has started an anti-Welsh agenda by the Monday. Now is your time, Ger, for the people of Wales online and people of the valleys watching from Cardiff to Swansea to Clondudno and Mount Snowdon. Let us know what you think.
Any cheap headlines.
You think of the sheep. I was going to say something there that they wouldn't have liked. The sheep-liking folk. What do you make of them, Ger, this week?
I think that Welsh rugby was clearly in crisis. I think that we were right to say that they were completely shambolic 2 years ago. We were just a year early.
Yeah.
And if there hadn't been a red card in that game, they got so lucky in that championship, and it was false gods. That's what it was. So this time around, Gatland's back, and Gatland's prowess is phenomenal, and his connection with that Welsh rugby team and those fans is phenomenal. And so you would be careful not to poke the bear this week, because obviously no bulletin board material required. But I do think that you don't let them into this game, and you don't start picking your team on the basis of they're going to have 2 small centres, we need to pick 2 big centres. You just go out and you go, we're the best team in the world, we're going to crush you, and we're going to move on. We're all about the business this week.
The handicap appears to be Ireland by 6 for this weekend, which I think is probably about right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we probably, to borrow Adrian Barry's riff on opening the kimono, I think we probably showed a lot of teams how to beat us against Australia. I think we walked into that game thinking this is going to be easy, and Australia somewhat cracked the code. But for the bounce of the ball, it would have been a draw, and Ross Byrne managed to kick the winning penalty, which got us over the line.
Two things. I think Australia are actually way better than everybody else thinks, because their results have been poor, but their performances have been excellent.
Sure.
And the other thing is that we definitely were a little bit complacent in that game. I don't think we're going to be complacent against Wales in the opening game of the Six Nations.
No, but I think Wales are going to be up for it, and they know that the key to beating an Ireland side, as France showed last year and as La Rochelle showed against Leinster, is deprive them of the ball. I don't think Wales are going to have any appetite for kicking the ball away stupidly this weekend. I think they're going to try and frustrate Ireland and be that team that's the thorn in our side, as they've been for years. I mean, we haven't won there since 2014.
Have you picked a Welsh team?
I have. So
have to name this
there it is. So it's Gareth Thomas, Ken Owens, Thomas Francis, Adam Beard and Alwyn Jones in the second row, and a back row of Jack Morgan, Justin Tipperick and Falasau. And then 9 and 10, Tomas Williams and Dan Bigger, Kieran Williams of Ospreys and George North in the centre, and then Josh Adams, Alex Cuthbert and Liam Williams.
Are they all fit?
At the moment, yeah, from what I've seen. Yeah.
No, it's not about us.
It's okay, isn't it?
It's the first time in a long time that they've all been...
We've thought about them.
Well, yeah, I mean, true. But also that they're all actually fit at the same time.
Yeah, because I think the one doubt is Lee Halfpenny, which is why I've left him out. He might be in instead of Liam Williams, and maybe he'd move over to wing and Alex Cuthbert would lose out. But that's how I see the team lining up. I think the player that people might notice isn't there is Nick Tompkins, but I think Kieran Williams is very much a Gatland player. He's quite effusive in his praise of Williams so far this season. Sees him as a younger Scott Gibbs. So I wouldn't be totally writing them off.
I'm not writing them off. I just do think that Ireland can't be picking a team on the fact that so to counteract George North's size, we need to go with McCluskey or whatever. You didn't do that either, though.
No, I didn't. But I think if we're going to maybe keep our cards closer to our chest, it wouldn't be the worst idea to pick based on what the teams are going to bring. Which is why maybe McCluskey might get in place of Anaki if Farrell is so inclined. But yeah, I feel like this year, and I hate this line of we might be to lose a game this year in the Six Nations, might do us the world of good. Of course it won't. That's stupid. And we didn't exactly blow everyone away in November anyway. But I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to pick teams based on whether there's injuries in the World Cup. Let's play what's in front of us and keep our grand master plan for the World Cup under wraps for a little bit longer. That wouldn't be the worst idea, I don't think.
Yeah, the only thing is I don't think there is a grand master plan. It's just get better at doing what we're doing at the moment and hope that that's enough to see you through. There's no magic tactic in the sky to steal a phrase that is going to suddenly be unfurled by any team at a World Cup. If you look back at the previous winners, it's always been the team playing the very best version of themselves, or as close to the best available version of themselves in finals, and being able to deal with multiple styles. So it's better that we're coming up against a Gatland Wales team. It'll absolutely sharpen us, and if we lose, I don't think it's a disaster. It's not great, but it will, it'll certainly make us think about improving everything that we possibly have to improve. I like you though, I would definitely be giving some people extra game time at this stage to see how they do. I'd love to see Ryan Baird start the game, and I'd love to see whoever they decide is our second choice tight head start the game, and you have O'Mahony on the bench and you have Tadhg Furlong on the bench.
Absolutely.
And when 55 minutes are on the clock and these two are coming on, it's like, okay, Lions captain, Ireland captain, best tight head in the world. Shit, it's serious now, you know?
And I'd love to see Ross Byrne start a game that isn't against England, because he always seems to start those, but I'd love to see him start against France.
Yeah.
Or Italy, exactly. I think he's got the opposite problem to Joey Carbery, where he can set the tempo but maybe not maintain it, and that was kind of obvious against Racing a couple of weeks ago. Carbery's problem is that he kind of struggles to set the momentum of the game, whereas Ross Byrne can get the ball rolling.
All right. Cameron, good stuff. It's 8:05. Braeburn Coffee is the official coffee partner of Off the Ball. Braeburn Coffee is coming to an Applegreen store near you, with Braeburn locations popping up every month. Visit applegreenstores.com/Braeburn to find your nearest Braeburn coffee experience. Up next, Aiden O'Mahony.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Have you subscribed to the OTB Football Podcast?
It almost feels like we're in the running already, and every point, every match is being treated as this great test. There's still half a season to go. I'm not sure how long you can maintain that sort of nervous energy, that emotional intensity.
Subscribe now to the OTB Football Podcast stream wherever you get your podcasts, and download the OTB Sports app.
OTB AM.
With Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
The latest episode of Lakewood Gale airs on Thursday evening on TG Car, and it stars Aidan O'Mahony. Aidan, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, lads.
How has this whole experience been for you?
I think it's like one of those things, George, you know, when you agree to do something, you were halfway through it, and you're kind of saying, why did I agree to do that? I'd say on Thursday, I kind of have, I suppose, one eye open, but look, you look forward to it. It's obviously, it's a nice thing to do. You know, I know like Kieran did it there now as well, and you know, they're great shows, but obviously you're nervous as well because, you know, you're going to be getting a lot of, I suppose, opinions on the whole documentary. But look, at the same time, I suppose people will get an insight into the person maybe outside of the jersey.
I was going to say, the phone call comes from the producers of Lakewood Gale, and you're like, yeah, oh, absolutely, oh, that's amazing. And then the next day you're like, oh shit, I have to talk about all the stuff I don't want to talk about.
Exactly, yeah. So I think it's like everything, they're very good to draw you in at the start. And then there's that mentioning things, they're like, all right, we put that in, we leave that out. But look, I suppose after writing the book, there wasn't much I could actually leave out. But it was enjoyable, Joe. Like, first, I think, recording it was up in our sheep farm in Kilflesk, and it was actually, we were looking at the same day, my brother was actually dosing a sheep. I said it was funny, I was in a pair of shorts and the top that you obviously wouldn't wear if you were.
I was going to say, I've seen a good bit of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I've seen about 40 minutes of the hour, and the shot of you with your brother fully properly dressed for farming, and you in your tiny little white runners with the socks barely visible. I'm not even sure if there were socks. I was like, that's not farming gear. This guy's not a farmer.
I said, what are the chances to land back to a white Converse? And then he's dosing sheep, and I said, this isn't going to go down too well now. People see it. Yeah, but it was nice. Look, that's why I grew up. My brother Noel obviously stayed on the farm, and it was kind of special to see that day. It hasn't changed where all the neighbours kind of would come around and give you a hand to dose the sheep, and you would have to go and do theirs. It was like the bog. It was very similar, but it was nice to get it in. It was actually very special to get it in, yeah.
I did, because the narration, the voiceover at that point talks about growing up in this rural idyll, and I do think that we have this tendency to fetishize rural life as like being amazing, but actually it's really difficult, and rural isolation is a real thing. And the importance of the GAA club for you growing up to not just be on the farm running up the mountain all day, but actually to socialise you and the rest of the young men of rural Ireland is something I think is kind of, it comes across a little bit in it.
It was a release, yeah, because it would have been very easily, I think, growing up on the farm, where everything becomes about the farm, you know, as I said, after school, into the car, back to Glenflesk, and you know, back then there was no tractors. You couldn't actually travel. If you got if you got a good view of that place, you'd see the tractor can't go up the fields and stuff. So everything that had to go up, whether it was timber or nuts or hay, had to be carried on your shoulders. So obviously the GA thing then was, like as I always said, I wasn't one of those lads that wanted to be the next Mikey Sheehy or, Bomber Lister and these guys. I didn't even think I'd play football. But I think when you were young, you had a bike, you start travelling, and we just started cycling to Rabig and getting involved underage and stuff. So I was kind of released well from that. But at the same time, look, where I grew up, farming was a huge part of society and the community.
It's funny, Aidan, because there's a lovely cinematic shot in the episode as well, and you kind of think of the Cork-Kerry rivalry and as something that ebbs and flows, and at times, certainly in the mid-noughties, it was quite heated. Maybe not so at the moment, but that Blackwater Bridge that separates Knocknagree in Cork and your own parish in Rathmore, it kind of highlights, like, you're one of those people who lived very close to the Cork-Kerry border, so the rivalry to you probably was always there.
Yeah, and it was great. It actually made the Kerry Cork derbies even more special when you're living at the border. I said the only worrying thing now is I have a nephew actually playing fullback from Cork, with Cork from Knocknagree. He's on the other side of the border now, but it's amazing how things turn out. But like that, yeah, there were special days. Like I suppose for Rathmore, there's a split between the two parishes, and there's that massive divide. So they made the days more special for us, obviously, with some tough days as well, having to go back to Rathmore after losing. And like even Nola Leary there, I was talking to him last week, you make unbelievable friendships out of it. Like, I was one of those players, like, yeah, I always played nation, and I wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but at the same time, once it stayed the pitch, that was it for me. We all had a job to do. We had a job to do for the team. And those Kerry Cork games, there was massive battles, because I remember even under Conor Coonan, they were one of the greatest Cork teams I've seen. Like, they were never beaten. I know, yeah, they won one All-Ireland, but every year they kept coming back. They turned us over, both from Parky, Queeve. We didn't get beaten in Killarney, but they drew us, I think, once or twice. So we had some massive battles, and look, neither team took a step back from each other. I think there's a healthy respect from those both teams for each other then.
The team that you were part of, there was a wildness to you all coming through. There was on the team yourself, Galvin, Tomas O'Shea. You never quite knew exactly what you were going to get as the opponent, but you knew that it was going to be fiercely fought and fiercely contested. I can only imagine what the training is like.
Yeah, so like Jack, I think, had a good way about him as well, and he's a good way of kind of controlling this at the best of times. I actually met him during the summer this year. I think he was kind of pinching himself with the group he is now. So tame. But so it was, look, everyone wants, like, I think, Joe, when you get in first with Kerry, it's about hanging in there and trying to get through the hard training and proving that you're worthy of being inside there. Then when you get through that part of it, it's about getting a jersey, and that's no different to anyone in Kerry. Like that, there's a selfish element. You get through the hard training, get through the hard slog, then you want a jersey. You want to be on that first 15, and you play to your strengths. And as I said, look, myself and Paul came in 2004 with Jack. We probably lost a different element. They'd have probably seen after 2003 with Tyrone. Look, Tomas, what can we say about Tomas? He's just one of the greatest footballers of all time, and he was a leader in the dressing room as well when he spoke. Everything was articulate, and it meant so much. So all these lads, I think, to grow up and play with them, looking back now, it was amazing, because they just had so many strengths. And yeah, look, there was a wildness to us as well, but I suppose it was part of who we were.
That 98 All-Ireland semi-final between Kerry and Kildare features as well. Aidan, I know you were playing in the minor team, I think, that day, and watching the senior game afterwards clearly left an indelible mark on you as well.
Yeah, I came up to that All-Ireland semi-final. I broke my nose a few weeks before it, the first time in Mini, and I missed out on the nose final, but got to play in 10 minutes in an All-Ireland final. I suppose as a young lad, you don't expect it, and then you're brought on. But just watching him coming out after, it was exceptional. Like, it was like these kind of gladiators coming out through the tunnel, and like the conditioning of them, and just like you could just see in their faces the emotion and what that whole thing meant. And something like definitely that day kind of stuck me, saying, geez, I want some of that. But at the same time, I was kind of being realistic as well. I think I was number 21 or 22 for Kerry minor, so they were looking at that and they were kind of saying that's a long way off. But look, that's, I suppose, for any young lad to kind of say that if you don't make underage and minors or under 20s and stuff, it's not the end of the world. There's always time to make it.
And you end up being man of the match in an All-Ireland final. The one that I wanted to talk to you about, though, was the Donegal game, where you've been a stalwart of the team, an all-star, and then you've come out of the team for various reasons, which we can get into, and then you're back in the team, and you're tasked with the job of man-marking Michael Murphy in an All-Ireland final. Like if you talk to anybody who knows anything about Ulster football, they would have Michael Murphy at the absolute apex of impact and talent and like character. You know, he's basically, there's him and Canavan are kind of the gods of, they're definitely on Ulster football's Mount Rushmore, and yet there's no way you win that All Ireland without your performance that day. What's the build up to that like? What's in your head? Like, how do you perfect what you're going to have to do, and how do you make peace with like your job is just to be the destroyer on the day?
Yeah, so destroyer is a very hard word, Jordan. Look, for me, there was a story into that All Ireland. I think it was 2 years. My dad passed away in 2012, and after we buried him, we did a Connolly challenge game at home, and I made promised him that I'd get up the steps of the Hogan in his memory. And sometimes you make these promises and they don't come true. And like the last conversation I had with him before he passed away was my 17 niece were coming home from the All Ireland final in Donegal playing Mayo, and he was speaking about Michael Murphy in the goal, and he actually spoke about Aidan O'Shea as well. He was speaking about it to them, and we didn't get to speak again. And I remember the way 2014 unravelled. 2013 I got a bad injury, and I thought it was finished. And 2014 I was just hell bent on fulfilling that promise. And then the way it unravelled, the semi-final, I got to mark Aidan O'Shea, and then lo and behold, Michael Murphy's there in the final. So all of a sudden our phone call was popping up. And for me, that day, I was just, I put in a massive year, I suppose, work-wise, training-wise, everything was done to T. I was always one of those players that if we were training at 6:30, I'd be there for 5 o'clock. I loved walking out in the pitch in the stadium for maybe 20 minutes on my own. I'd say the players thought I was mad, but that's who I was. I was always there then. And then everything was based around that final. And the night before, Eamon had a great way about him where we did meetings and we just kind of looked promising. And I just said this, I'd mark Michael Murphy out of the game. And I think I said it 3 times, and it wasn't being an arrogance. I just kind of walked out the door after saying, why did you say that? That's putting way more pressure on yourself. And look, the game Michael Murphy is, like, for me, on the pitch and off the pitch, he's one of the top guys in the J. Absolutely. I have so much respect for him. We had so many battles. I remember being above in Ballybuffet and all these places, like, and it's snowing, and I'm looking at him saying, oh God, he's the last guy I want to see come in and top me today. And that day, look, things just worked out for me. You know, I was just, I suppose, you're kind of driven insane to succeed, and I knew myself that if I failed at my task, I'd fail the team. And like, that's the kind of pressure you need to put yourself on in big games. As you said, with all the work done, I had all that in my mind. I was in a healthy place, and it was just going out there and doing everything possible, I suppose, to mark him out of the game, and just to play in his coattails. And we were talking about the loops and lads get him on the ball, and look, it all worked out fine when the rest were doing their job then. Like, so I was only a small cog in that All-Ireland final, but I still had that job to do, and I was relishing it, I suppose, leading into the 3 weeks leading into it.
The bit you talk about your dad in that, like, we listened to Rory McIlroy yesterday talking about his battle was to not let the emotion of who he was fighting against prevent him from playing well. How do you stop your grief from interfering and your desire not to let down your dad and the promise you made from actually? So how do you separate those two things? Use it as an inspiration, but equally not let it overawe you.
Yeah, I remember when I walked away in 2010 went to Ashery, like, I was mentally in a weak and a bad place. And I remember when my dad passed away in 2012, I think all those moments in 2010 helped me to, I suppose, get over it and to deal with it. And I suppose to turn something where for me it was sport, and my dad would keep all the clippings of games stuff, but to turn something like that into positive, and then to go on a journey for him, to repay him for all, I suppose, everything he'd given for me and all those years of cutting out pieces of papers and going to games. And I said the biggest thing I could ever give to my dad was, after coming home from games, you know, as some people always say to me, sometimes he should give you a kick up the arse to see what you cop on, but he didn't. He said nothing. You know, he was a positive man, and that really, I suppose, was embraced by me. So in that 2014 final, it was very easy, I suppose, unattach myself from that promise, because I had a job to do. And I knew that I wouldn't fulfill it unless I completed my job that day. So it was very easy to separate the two.
There's an incredible scene where you're leafing through those scrapbooks. Did you know that the scrapbooks existed, or did you only find out afterwards that he'd kept every scrap of paper and every match report?
Yeah, I knew he had, I suppose, some paper and stuff like that, but I didn't know, I suppose, the extent of what he had collected. And like when he retired from work, we were sitting rooms at the front of our house, and I used to come home from the park, and I'd have to go down to the sitting from my bedroom, and he'd be inside watching the games. You'd hear the matches about a mile down the road. He'd come up to the last, and he'd be watching all the games. It was like analysis before his time. And next, I hated watching the games, so he'd pause it when I come in. And I come in, he'd talk away about gamble training. And I go back out the door again, I sit into the car next to hear the video player inside. So he loved it, was part of his life. But just to get the scrapbooks and to see what amount of work he'd put in, because I'd say he'd have a bit of blue tack and glue in Ratmore bought. I said to put in all that stuff into those scrapbooks. But they're amazing to look back on, and he was an amazing man.
In one of the low points, and look, you speak very eloquently about your mental health struggles in the documentary as well. It was 2005, so after the All-Ireland final loss to Tyrone, and again it's covered in the book. We have the copy of the book here in studio with us today, if I can get in the shot there. Unbroken, and that really is a word that springs to mind, because you failed the drugs test in 2005 after the final, salbutamol, which was a banned substance. Then you get the therapeutic use exemption because, of course, your battles with asthma as well, as something that's covered heavily in the early part of the documentary. But that must have been, post 2005 All-Ireland final, quite a low point for you.
It was actually 08.
After the final.
Yeah, so like it was, but I think even leading up to those, even the diving incident and the asthma thing, I think my mind was in a bad place, and it wasn't even those incidents. It was, I suppose, not dealing with stuff, I suppose, coming through the years. And the asthma thing, it was tough, because I'm one of those people, I've a kind of a quiet nature, and when you grow up in that kind of a background, you don't know how to deal with these things, and it's very easy to kind of put on a show or a front for people, because, as I'm always saying, when I played with Kerry, you played in the edge and you played in the line, and you think that you need to show that to people as well, that you're not. Where I look back now and say, I respect myself for what I did, and I respect my family for, I suppose, backing me. And when I was in that mindset back then, I was saying, geez, if I do this, if I do that, it'd be shown as a weakness. And then the inhaler thing came along, and it kind of flattened me, because it went on for 4 months. I lost total form in football, and I actually had much interest in the GA at the time then. And then it showed in 2009, I got dropped from the championship after the month's final. And it went from one to the other. And when you're in that kind of mindset, you're kind of saying, geez, why me? And why are all these things happening? And I couldn't tease them things out back then. And as I said, 2010, I just had to step away from it. I remember going out after games, and you're out socialising, and you're crying because all these emotions are coming up, and you're not enjoying life and stuff like that. And it comes to Aidan, as I said, and we spoke about my dad there. The morning I went to Ashery, like, my dad was at the kitchen table crying, and for a man of his generation to be like that and to show those emotions just showed me that the position or the place I was in at the time. And I think reflecting back on the book and on Lake Regale, that was the hardest thing for me. I suppose reliving that and probably saying to myself, how do you let yourself get to that position? But at the same time, I suppose I kind of have to give myself some of the kudos for coming out the other side of it, not going down a path that, I didn't know where I was going to go.
What's the turning point for getting out of that?
The turning point is just, I suppose, dropping your barrier or dropping your guard and getting help. And I suppose we've great now team sports psychology is so important. And I do courses there through Kerry J, and you just see the importance of what these people bring to groups and panels. And I know we had sports psychology back then. I didn't use it because I thought I was above that and stuff. And then I wasn't dealing with all these things, and I was letting them snowball, and I was turning my life upside down. As I said at the time, I wasn't a nice person to be around. I was distant from my family, but I was just continuing life. Like, it was no different. So, like, your turning point is just being able to communicate with people. And I think, we did a seminar there a couple of weeks ago at Tony Griffin. It was just fantastic to see someone just to just drop everything and talk about themselves, because it makes you more open as well. And I can see now from a football side or a sports side that if you have a team of people that you know about, like what they've done or what they've accomplished or what they've gone through, then you're more open to them as well. And when you want to pitch in, you're back with your life.
That's the fundamental part of this for me, Aidan, is that you might even have been an even better footballer than the multiple All-Ireland winner, All-Star, Man of the Match and All-Ireland final if you discovered this as a 16-year-old. Like, that came out wrong, but like, I guess what I'm saying is that you didn't have to have that anger to be the player you were. Like, if you listen to Wayne Rooney now, for example, he talks about his anger management problems, and they cost him even more achievements than he already had. And when that's somebody at that ultra high level, and you're at a similar level in GAA, where your desire is to win All Ireland and you can do it, and your desire is to help your teammates be Player of the Year and you can do it, that like we probably need a bit of a culture shift to get to the point where you don't need to be angry all the time to be your best.
No, but I suppose you need to have players. I always say this. I think it's a good way of putting it. Someone said before, you need fellas in the pitch that do the dirty work for the rest of them to shine. So I probably look at it that way, Ger. But no, like I think you're right in two ways. In that, like for me, I hadn't in my mind to play football at an elite level growing up, or at 15 and 16 years of age. I was getting more fun out of soccer. I loved soccer. I have no problem saying that. And I just think the way things happen, I think everything happens in life for a reason, Ger. And I think I wouldn't change anything. Yeah, look, we have regrets. You deal with them, you tease them out, and you see why did it happen. And you need to move on. Like, life is precious. I know myself now, I have 2 kids at home, 3.5, 5.5. I gone into hurling management to really put another, I suppose, challenge in front of me. And, that's the importance. The importance is your family then, and your sporting career is your sporting career. And you look back and say, I had my challenges there. I gave what I could for the Kerry jersey, and I genuinely did. So as I said, blood, sweat and tears. I knew that when I draw that jersey, there's an onus on you that every day you go out, you're expected to win. And I'm always saying it's not an arrogance down here. It's what's expected. If you don't win All Irelands, it's seen as a failure. And it's a good thing in life as well, because it makes you, I suppose, it makes you more driven. And whatever you put your mind to in after you finish your sporting career, like I'm in the fitness business now, and even my work as a community policing in Tralee, like it's important for me to be open when I get to schools and talk to people. And I think people can be more open with me then as well, especially young people, that they're not seeing Aidan O'Mahony, 5-time All-Ireland winner, walking in the gate saying, oh sure, it's fine for him, he had a great sporting career, and what would he know about mental health or, going through a tough time. So I think I wouldn't change anything, Ger. I think your sporting career is more than medals. Like, I look at like Lee Keegan and all these guys, they had amazing sporting careers and they live amazing memories. And you don't need a medal you don't need to have a medal on your, I suppose, placard inside your house to know what you've done in your career.
100%. Aidan, great stuff. Congratulations on the Lakewood Gale. Enjoy it as much as you can on Thursday evening. It's great.
Cheers.
Aidan O'Mahony there, giving us some thoughts on his Lakewood Gale, which airs on TG Car on Thursday evening. It is 8:28, a little bit later than planned, but I'm delighted to say we've got Phoebe Schecter with us to talk about the NFL weekend that just was. Phoebe, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well. How are you both doing?
I guess you're a bit sleep deprived, staying up all night to cover the second of the championship games.
Yeah, we're still working on that. I think we finished maybe or got back to the house around like 4:30 in the morning. So, but luckily we had prepped the weekend before by doing the 3 games. So this was like a walk in the park, really.
That's the one caveat to the NFL taking over the entire world, is that it's very difficult for us in this part of the world to watch those games.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that might be a hindrance to why some NFL fans don't get involved. But, I mean, luckily, that's why things like Game Pass and the Red Zone, all of that makes it so exciting, because you can just get all the highlights punched into a 5-minute or 40-minute little bucket.
Phoebe, let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles, because their performance was spectacular. And I think a lot has been made of the difficulties that the Niners had at quarterback, and rightly so. But the two injuries that they got at the weekend were as a result of incredible play by the Eagles. And once you take that and start thinking in those terms, it's like it's hard to have too much sympathy for the Niners. I'm a Niners fan, so I know it's difficult for me to say that. But the Eagles were absolutely dominant from start to finish.
Yeah, and what I love about the Eagles is they have this kind of way about them. They are just physical, right? You look at what they did to the Giants a couple weeks ago. They will run all over you. They're not going to hold back. And that is becoming their identity. There was a video about Jalen Hurts talking to the team going into the other day's game. And he just said, look, guys, we don't need to change anything about who we are. We're great how we are. Just increase that standard a little bit. And I think when you've got someone, he doesn't get too hyped. He just kind of goes along with the flow, quite steady with it. But they have this like dog mentality. And I mean, they just got after him, right? On both sides of the ball. Hassan Reddick was incredible. I mean, he's had a game. And I think he was kind of sparked by the fact that on the other side of the ball, you have Nick Bosa, who is technically being said that he's a better player than Reddick and only just out-sacked Reddick by, I think it was 2 sacks. And I think Hassan Reddick had a point to make, but the way that the Eagles ran the football, and when you've got so many threats, Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, I mean, you're going to get exhausted, you're going to get beat down, and they love that.
It wouldn't have had an impact, Phoebe, on the result whatsoever, but early on there's controversy when Devonta Smith makes that one-handed catch, which was incredible at the time, but I mean, had the 49ers reviewed it, it would have been incomplete, and it's easy to say that in hindsight. Look, it wouldn't have changed the result, but it was certainly a moment that stood out.
Big time. I mean, that was a massive play. Everyone saw it, and I know, Shanahan said he didn't see the replay on the screen, but Devonta Smith, if you see him, he's going like this, and that is one of their signals that means, hey, look, I don't know if that was a catch. We got to get lined up, get a play run really quickly. And so you have to have some awareness as a coach. And I think for the 49ers, they've been around this for a long time. That would have been an easy challenge for them, especially, to be honest, if you know a team is going quick like that, you got to think, maybe they don't believe in it themselves that it was successful. But one amazing grab that was, and it really did change the game because it was tight all the way through.
Is there just a little bit with this Niners team where something is missing, like notwithstanding the injuries to the quarterbacks, right? But they did all get injured on plays, particularly the early one. Trey Lance gets injured running up the centre, and funnily enough, a big guy falls on him. Who would have thought that maybe that might happen? Their offensive line couldn't protect the quarterbacks at the weekend. Like, for all of the genius of Kyle Shanahan, is there just a little wrinkle there that you think somebody somewhere needs to say, hang on, do we need to approach this team building in a slightly different way?
I think the 49ers have done a really great job, and I really felt for them. They've been winning. They have, and we've all said it, the most complete football team, offense, defense, special teams. I just think, I don't know how you get so unlucky that you not only have mid-season, you've lost the kid you wanted, you then lose Jimmy G, then you lose Brock Purdy, and then you lose your backup to the backup to the backup. I mean, that just isn't something that happens. It is a freak accident. I think maybe the thing that might be looked at is when we've changed these rules for quarterbacks, the not hitting them late, not hitting them like that, you see a lot more of these defenders going for the hand, because that's where you're going to try and get the ball loose and all of that. But now you're putting the quarterback in an even more compromised position, and specifically where their injury is most severe, right? I mean, that's only a small limb. So the Hassan Reddick one, you saw him come through, get stuck on Brock Purdy's arm, and that's where he's really done this. And I don't know if you've seen it. I mean, it's 6 months he's going to be out now, this young quarterback.
Yeah, it's a massive setback to him and to his career, and so they more than likely will look somewhere else in the summer, or there's a good chance they will. To move on to what you expect from the Eagles in the Super Bowl then, is there any change? Is there anything else that you will expect them to add as a wrinkle when they're coming up against the Kansas City Chiefs? Because obviously they have yet to face Patrick Mahomes level QB as they have reached this point in the season. It's not the full Patrick Mahomes, obviously, because he is definitely somewhat hindered by the high ankle sprain. So what will they have ready for him, do you think?
I think it's really going to be a battle of the coaches. Anytime that you go up against Andy Reid, you have to be thinking so creatively and kind of be ready for anything, because we've seen some of the madness and amazingness that Andy Reid has brought to the table, whether we're talking about all of them in a big circle together and then running out, sort of distracted, Mahomes walking off, direct snaps to other people. So I think what they're able to do is make your defense work for every single snap, but more from a mentality perspective. And then vice versa. We didn't see Jalen Hurts run as much as we potentially have in the past. And I know he's still recovering from that shoulder injury. But one of the things I think said a lot was there was a hit in that game last weekend. And it looked like it hurt, to be honest. It would have hurt me for sure. But then he gets up and he runs the ball again. So I think that's more of a statement from him saying, I'm fine. So I think we might see him running the ball a bit more, because when he uses that kind of run-pass option, he makes it so challenging on a defense.
I guess us in the media, Phoebe, we often make a lot out of different strands when it comes to a Super Bowl. Having Jason and Travis Kelce, the first brothers, to face off in a Super Bowl is interesting. Nearly more interesting to me is Nick Sirianni and Andy Reid's history. The fact that when Andy Reid comes into the Chiefs, he lets go of Nick Sirianni as a coach. So there's a lot of strands there. And Nick Sirianni is someone who deserves a lot of credit here for how the Eagles have picked up.
Big time. And I think one of the things I love about how Nick Sirianni is taken on the Eagles is he's let go of the play calling roles. He's come in and he's really managing the game. He's managing the players, and that's been really great for him. And, Andy Reid has a massive coaching tree. You're talking about Coach McDermott, Harbaugh, Ron Rivera, like the list goes on and on and on. So for him to let go of Nick Sirianni, I think is always quite an interesting move, and curious really, what he saw, what he didn't see to be in this situation. But look, coaches know you get fired, but I think there's always a piece of you that thinks, I'm going to get you back for that. And what a better place to do it than in the Super Bowl.
How can they get at the Eagles, the Chiefs? Like Patrick Mahomes is an obvious example of someone who can probably find those weak points, but the Eagles' discipline against the 49ers was just there in spades. Picked up lots of yards because of mistakes and discipline from the 49ers. So how can the Chiefs get at them? What are the weak points in that Eagles team?
Yeah, I think you're having to look. I mean, if we're looking from offensive perspective on the Chiefs' behalf, they've not been against a team that can get those yards after catch the way they do. Obviously, looking at Kelce, his ability to find space in the zone, he is so talented. He is one of the most elite tight ends that we've ever seen, or receivers in terms of being able to find that space, find that zone. So I think looking at him, Pacheco's been such a hard runner. He got injured a little bit at the end of the game, so I hope if he's able to come out there and wear down that defense, but utilize the aggression of Hassan Reddick against himself. Whether you're running the ball at him, because once you kind of take the wind out of his sails like that, you can use it so he almost flies by. And then if you're looking at it from, I guess, Jalen Hurts or from that defensive perspective, trying to keep Hurts in the pocket is going to be key. He is a guy that wants to get out. You'll have to have a spy on him, one of the defenders, to basically just watch him the whole time. So I think there's a couple of different things. A lot of it depends on how Mahomes is feeling, limping off the field. If you get if you can get like the old Mahomes, maybe even the first half of the game yesterday, the other day, I don't even know what day of the week it is, but whenever that game happened, that would be great.
The owners all lobbied really hard for the 17th game in the regular season, and it feels like that makes perfect sense, let's just keep expanding. But the difficulty with this is that we're now getting the teams in the final game of the season, and if you look at the Chiefs roster in particular, like Kelce was a last minute, he's good to go because he had back spasms during the week. A load of their receivers during the game fell apart. Mahomes is on one leg, Jalen Hurts is kind of on one leg, and a lot of their players are carrying bumps and bruises as well. it's not like there's no consequences for having the extended season. The players are getting so injured and so banged up that maybe we don't end up seeing the all-time classic that we should do. When you list the players on both sides, this could easily be a 35-33 Super Bowl, but it's more than likely going to be 21-18 or 19-16.
Yeah, spot on. I'm definitely worried for the Chiefs and their lack of a receiving core. I mean, the fact they were able to win that game with who they had was unbelievable. And I think there is that element to it. I mean, it's a long season when you're in it. And when you think back to week 1 in Miami versus the Patriots, I mean, that seems like a lifetime ago. And I know they tried to do it so that they've got a shorter preseason, but nobody really plays. None of the starters really play in the preseason anyway, so it doesn't really alleviate the stress on them. And, you know, the reason for doing the longer season was really to allow for having more international games. So it's a bit of a conundrum because, I don't see them going back, but I think there has to be a way that you can alleviate some of this physical stress. Because even thinking about it, the players aren't even allowed to tackle in the off season. So it's not even like they're having that physical wear down happening. This is all just stress from being in the season. So I spot on agree with you.
Do you have a feeling yet about who you're going to pick for the final?
Ooh. You know what? I actually really like the Eagles. I think it'd be amazing to see the Chiefs like storybook if they're able to pull it out. But no, I really like the Eagles. I like what they've been doing. They've been just building, consistent. And I just think Jalen Hurts, he is the healthier quarterback, and he can really, really stress a defense. So that's my thought.
Phoebe, great to have you with us. Thanks a million for making the time for us.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's Phoebe Schecter there, part of Sky Sports coverage of the Super Bowl in 2 weeks' time.
It's in Arizona. Does that? But is it a consistent start time?
Yeah,
it'll still be
11:45.
Yeah, so it's still a late one. Will you stay up?
I've tried that. Can't do it. I tried. What happened last year was I was like, I'm going to record this and get up at 5. So I got up at 5, and unfortunately, the way my Sky recorded, I came down and it didn't start at the start. So I saw Tom Brady on the pitch, and I was like, oh, this is 2 years ago now. Obviously, I was like. So that didn't work either.
Yeah, you gotta see. You can have the afternoon nap on the Monday.
Take the day off.
Well, yeah, there is that option, but yeah, it's a late one.
OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. It is 8:41. We still have Derek McNamara to preview the Six Nations for us. We have Deal or No Deal as the transfer deadline ticks down at 11 o'clock tonight, of course, and we'll play out some Kevin Kilban goodness. Reflecting on the new Everton era. But first, Carl Mullaney is with us. Carl, good morning to you.
Hello, lads.
How are you?
Going? All good.
The clock isn't just ticking down on transfer deadline day. The clock is ticking down on what miraculous fudge the GA can come up with from the CCCC to make sure that everybody goes away happy, but everybody goes away slightly displeased.
Midday.
Yeah.
Do we know? Is there an exact time?
I think lunchtime is the word that the teams are expecting to hear at that stage. So I don't know what's going to happen, I have to say. I really don't.
Apparently the decision's going to be communicated to the two clubs before noon.
Simultaneously?
You'd imagine so. A lot was made in the meeting yesterday, apparently, about the referees involved, or the officials' involvement in the substitutions.
That's what Crokes have been saying from the start, that it was the referees' fault, nothing to do with them. They don't have to have 15 men on the field of play, and if they've got more than that, it's up to the referees.
Well, Colin Key's reporting yesterday, late last night, it still seems to be the case that Kilmacud are reluctant to play a replay if that's the option of the three that is picked.
I think I saw a line in one of the papers this morning that in Glen the appetite for a replay maybe has subsided a little bit. I mean, it's amazing how it has ebbed and flowed in the last week or over a week now. Like, I mean, Conor Glass and Ethan Doherty played for Derry at the weekend. So like, it's moved on that much. Where do you fit in a replay? Players away on holidays, there's weddings happening as well. It's just such a messy situation.
It's Paddy's Day, isn't it? Or it's It's not in the next week or two, put it that way.
Well, you have to give them adequate preparation time as well. It's just such a messy situation. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's such
it's a lose-lose. It's actually tainted no matter what way it goes now.
Well, I definitely think it's tainted if you win All Ireland with 16 men on the field.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, fair play, extra man, 16th man. That's. I also think unless they do something then other teams are going to look at this and go, well, yeah, what's the repercussion for this?
Yeah, I think there has to be a legacy from it in terms of maybe a slight rule change where it's more like soccer substitutions where the player has to come to the sideline and there's a definite change where you can see.
The GA won't have that though.
Do you not think?
Dinosaurs in the GA wouldn't want anything to do with soccer. Oh, is that similar to soccer? We won't be doing that. Not a chance. Anything that makes sense.
I wonder, is there like volleyball or ice hockey?
Yeah.
Subs? Is there some other sport
that does it exactly like soccer?
What in the AFL? How do they fix it?
That's a good question.
They're our friends. We can look at them.
Yeah. Maybe that's the way.
I guess the substitution thing though is kind of iconic in the J, where you have someone coming back from injury or out of retirement or a big name coming onto the field and the explosion of a roar. Running on or clattering in with a shoulder when you get into the pitch. But there has to be, I think there will be some sort of change maybe in that regard, just to make it a little bit easier on everybody, because it is difficult on officials as well when you've a guy trying to race in from the sideline, and it can be quite frantic. But I don't know. I really don't know what they're going to do today. I really don't know.
I think some kind of fudge has been worked out in the background where they'll order a replay and Glenn will turn it down. That's what I think is like they'll and however that happens.
What's the point in Glenn
that gets manufactured?
Why would Glenn bother showing up to Croke Park yesterday to show their case or present their case?
I think that because somebody has to take a stand when an injustice happens, you have to stand up against it. Like the whole kind of nothing to do with us mentality in Irish life generally is like, say whatever you say nothing, for fear that it might somehow.
But it's not. In my opinion, you're not standing up to it by just sending a representative to Croke Park and fighting your case. You have to stand up to it by accepting a replay and playing the replay. That's how you stand up to it, and hopefully win the replay from their perspective, and win an All Ireland Club Championship. Because as Damien Cassidy said, you mightn't get another chance. That's how you stand up to this. You don't just send a person to Croke Park and make your case and then say, okay, we've got the option of a replay, we're going to turn it down. If you get the option of a replay, you take it 100%. I mean, I would be flabbergasted at Glen if they didn't accept a replay if it was offered to them. Do you know? I understand Kilmacud's distaste for a replay because they have the trophy, they've had their celebrations. Completely understand why they wouldn't want a replay, but I can't see why Glen wouldn't take a replay. In a couple, give them time to prep for it. Give both teams time to prep for it. Maybe do it in St Patrick's Day or whenever. But Jesus, I really hope they don't turn it down. If a replay is offered, you have to play it. Both teams have to play it. Otherwise, it's definitely tainted.
Yeah, I think Glen, whatever way it goes, will be a big contender again next season. They've got a really good age profile, and if Matthew O'Rourke stays around, I think they will be a huge contender.
There's no guarantees.
But there's no guarantee. No, you're right, and especially
really
coming through the Ulster club.
The Dairy Championship,
Yeah.
they'll have a big bullseye on their back.
Yeah.
But Kilmacud are going to be here forever. That one we can be sure of.
100%. Well, Shane Walsh is what age? He's prime.
Yeah.
You see the likes of Rob Hennelly making a move to Raheny this week as well, which snuck completely under the radar. But I guess when it's, as someone said in the office yesterday, when it's not a super club or it's a slightly smaller club in Dublin and it's not Shane Walsh making the moves, then it kind of sneaks under the radar. But these switches do happen all the time. And Jack McCarran's switch in Monaghan is the one that's, causing a lot of consternation in the county. I think within a county when there's a switch, it's even more controversial.
I don't have any problem with any players moving. Like I really don't. I think everybody has to accept that people move in life, and being a prisoner of the fact that your parents conceived and gave birth to you in one particular small green field of the country should not prevent you from ever living in another greenfield and playing for that team and setting down roots. I don't have any problem with that whatsoever, and that's not part of this story for me. For me, it's like if you've got too many men on the field of play, then that can't stand. That's a very straightforward, it can't stand. And I do think that if they'd come out and offered a replay immediately afterwards, Glenn would have said no, thanks very much, and we would all moved on. We went, that was very magnanimous of that. But there's been no magnanimity and there's been no leadership shown, and they can complain all they want about people calling them out, but them's the breaks. Anyway,
Today's the day we find out who says what and who thinks what.
The thing is, there could be appeals to today's decision, so it could drag on.
If there's
Central Council and then it's what, DRA?
I'd say you're going. I actually don't know. After the CCC, there's something.
I think it goes to the
Central Appeals Committee and then possibly the
CAC,
DRA.
That's it. CAC
and then the DRC.
DRA,
sorry.
So you got to assume that, certainly the legal argument will be made.
It's like the Ger Connolly red card in 2017 went to the. Was it 2017? Went to the DRA. So this could drag on right up to the disputes resolution. Like, there's no distinction that it will end today, but we'll at least find out maybe what Glenn and Kilmacud think of the whole thing today.
Yeah, the only way that it goes further is Kilmacud saying they're going to send the cup up the road. That's the one that's done the rounds on social media and WhatsApp is like, we send the cup up the road to them, but they haven't said that publicly. You know, like that whole we've been known to say we can't talk publicly. They could have talked publicly.
I like the idea of like a taxi, of them just throwing the trophy into a taxi in Stillorgan and sending it up to Mahara. I mean, that would be fantastic. Take it up there and just the taxi man dumping it at the clubhouse, just throwing it out the door.
It'd be content.
Yeah.
it'd do the views on TikTok.
Yeah,
right, we should talk about Shane Lowry needs a new caddie.
Yes, Bo Martin is no longer Shane Lowry's caddie. Interesting story on the back of the Independent this morning, from Brian Keogh. Surprise, I would say. I mean, it's only 8 or 9 days ago that Lowry was in contention and didn't go well in the final round, didn't have a great week this week. They're kind of an iconic pairing, aren't they, after the Open Championship at Portrush, where they partnered together and had such a huge victory. And I think Lowry, in fairness to him after that, was full of praise for his caddie. So it's a surprise. I'm not sure. It didn't feel like Lowry needed such a significant reboot, if you like. He hadn't been playing terribly, but
he talked about hoping that the BNI versus Europe, the Sebi
Hero Cup,
that seemed to have a bigger impact than, because he talked about hoping that this wouldn't have a negative impact on him for the rest of the season. And then he played well for 3.5 days, it seemed, at Abu Dhabi.
Yep.
But maybe that final round and then this week, and it just reached a natural conclusion.
Yeah, maybe these relationships do reach a natural conclusion, as you say.
It's very intimate. Like they're...
Wasn't there the Masters third round last year when, was it a missed clubbing and Lowry wasn't happy, whatever?
Yeah, you see these kind of confrontations.
Harsh words used.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the beginning of the end.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But then they won a Wentworth after that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Lowry's brother has caddied for him on occasion. I wonder, will he step into the role now? But it is a big year for Lowry. I mean, he's spoken so much about the Ryder Cup and how central that is to what he wants to do, like even and above major championships on his own bat. So it's going to be interesting to see who he gets in, and he will want to play a very central role in that Ryder Cup team. So let's hope his form keeps on a similar trajectory. But obviously after Rory yesterday,
all right,
great start of the year.
Anything else going on?
We've got the Carabao Cup semi-final tonight between Newcastle and Southampton. Newcastle 1-0 up heading into the second leg of that. That's at St James's Park tonight. There's a game in the FA Cup as well, Birmingham and Blackburn in their fourth round replay, 7:45 kick-off for that one.
All right, good stuff, Carl. Thanks for that.
Cheers.
Stay tuned to the various radio stations that we broadcast sports news on, so Today FM and News Talk and 98 FM, and we'll keep you up to date with what the CCCC do and how close to the end. This is the end of the beginning. This is not the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I think like my mum was saying to me over the weekend, would you ever stop talking about that Glenn Kilmacud stuff? But people wanted to talk about it last week. I think it's going to come back. The Allianz Leagues were a nice breather. Took us away from it for a little bit. Yeah. But today's decision, we'll see what happens.
I'm also on Team Croaks. I'm like, what? 8:53 this morning. OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Up next, Derek McNamara from ReactRugby.com breaks down the numbers ahead of the Six Nations. First, here's Gordon Darcy talking with Adrian on last night's show. Back after this.
When you say you didn't agree with the feedback that was coming from the coaches, you didn't like it. Did you disagree with it?
No.
Right.
So it was just quite an odd conversation I had with Joe Schmidt one day, and it was like, oh, listen, you're not in the match day 23, or sorry, you're on the bench. And I was like, okay, why? He said, you're not playing particularly well. And I said, okay, who's starting? He said he was starting. By the way, I'm not going to tell you who was starting. It's irrelevant. And I said, well, I'm still probably playing better than they are. And he said, yeah, but they're playing closer to 100% than you are. And I was like, oh, that stings. and was there kind of going, sorry, I kind of said like, oh well, listen, I'm playing, I'm still reckon I'm better than them. He said, yeah, I wouldn't. He said I wouldn't disagree with that, and I was like, okay, well, why am I not starting? He said, well, they're playing closer to 100%. I was like, okay, sure. So I know also the two young lads that were picked ahead of me. He was saying to them, show me that lad's over the hill, and I'll pick you again. So he's creating that environment for healthy competition, and that was a rocket up my arse that I needed. And I kind of make a few adjustments, come back, and I hit actually a pretty good run of form. Yeah. And that team benefits from it. Joe's, pulled the strings in behind, and I got my finger in my arse.
He's sitting back looking like a genius. He's like,
yeah, exactly.
Brilliant thing I did. Look at this guy.
But the thing is, but that's the bit that, and this is like, you swing it back to Warren Gatland, and that's what he's capable of with players. And he's taken the captaincy, he's not giving it, not laying on the sentimentality of it. Alan Wynne-Jones is in the squad, but he's gone with Ken Owens. He's looking at guys like Tupiric, and he's going to give young lads their chance to give them their head, and he's going to set them up here to play and to play at home.
Yeah, you can get that full stuff. Subscribe to the OTB Rugby feed wherever you get your podcasts, or on the OTB Sports app, and you will be able to hear the full episode of that interview with Gordon Darcy. Now, Derek McNamara from reactrugby.com is with us to help preview the Six Nations. Derek, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks very much. The birds are beginning to sing, the days are getting a little bit longer.
Yeah.
This must mean Six Nations time. So
it's still bright at 5 o'clock in the evening?
Yes, just about.
That's it now. Not until next November will it be dark at 5 o'clock in the evening again. So yeah, winner, chicken dinner, Six Nations is upon us. Yeah. And Warren Gatland coming back is like an interesting little wrinkle. Their best players being fit is a bigger wrinkle, and you've been crunching the numbers to rank the teams.
Yeah, so I guess the way of looking at it is, in reality, there's so much going on in the games that it's very hard for us to kind of break down specifically what is right and what is wrong and happening in the game. So that's where we come in, and we come in to try and simplify the game and try and have it a little bit more digestible for clubs, teams, coaches, and fans at home. So we're trying to help the general people at home understand why certain team is better than the other. So when we have basically, when we look at the kind of four major kind of skill sets in attack, we look at carrying, rucking, and passing. And when we break them down and we look at everything pulled together, we can then rank and grade those teams. So in this instance, we have a slide here. So basically, Ireland, as you'd imagine, was ranked number 1 overall, but ranked number 2 in carrying, ranked number 3 in rucking, and ranked number 3 in passing. And what that means is basically we take, say, passing, we break it down into 3 sections. There's everybody else's passes, there's passes from hand, which is your 10, and passes from the ground. And say passes from the ground, we look at the accuracy of the pass, discrepancy between passing left and right, distance, speed to breakdown, speed of pass. All of these things we pull together, and we then rank them, and then we also take the opposition's the level of opposition you're playing against. We all throw that into the system, and basically it gives us these grades 0 to 100, allowing us to identify if a team's getting better or worse based on all of that information. So when we throw all that information together, we can see that Ireland are on top.
We have a lot of people who are listeners to this, not viewers. So just give us the figures, will you?
Yeah. So Ireland are ranked overall grade of 84.1, and our highest grade would be our rucking grade of a 90.3. So that means that we're higher than. Our accuracy, our decision making, our ability to get to the breakdown first is ranked number 3 overall. But then we look at Wales, and Wales carrying is ranked 5th. So that means they're not running onto the ball as quickly, they're not breaking as many tackles, they're not getting over the game line as much. But their rucking is ranked number 1. So that's something that we can kind of keep an eye out for this week, which is are they maintaining that level of rucking, and are they improving based on their carrying and their ruck and their passing? So they're passing, they're ranked 5th, and they're carrying, they're ranked 5th.
So this is useful for the coaching tickets to go and look at this and go, well, if we maintain this and improve this, we're going to see a quantum leap forward really quickly, because this is the one element of our game that's really chronically letting us down. And if you're in a team meeting, you're going, lads, all we got to do is fix this and away we go.
Yeah, like they have an idea about it. Like these coaches have got to where they are because they have instincts, and they're a really good people person, and they're, you know, they've gone through they're in the background, and they've probably played at a high level.
Sure.
All these things together.
But if you're coming into if you're coming into the environment cold a little bit, like Gatland, I mean, obviously Gatland has watched everything, but what are the chronic things that we need to fix urgently? Stuff like this could be useful.
Exactly, 100%, and that's fundamentally where it came from. I was a coach at a lower league level, and I wanted to understand why my team was getting better or worse, you know, and I had no physical way of doing that, or so that's where this whole thing has come from, and that's exactly the reason why it's here, is so that we can now measure Wales throughout the Six Nations and measure them to see whether or not they've gotten better or worse based on the teams that they're playing against.
Bit of consistency in terms of attacking skills from Ireland there. Like when you look at the other teams, at least we're second in carrying, third in rucking, and as you say, third in passing. Like some of the other teams, like Wales ranked top for rucking, but they're not quite as high in the other two disciplines. So at least you can look at it and say there's a bit of continuity there with Ireland's stats.
Yeah, and that comes from the level of performance that they have at the, you know, they've far more players that can play at international level, Ireland, you know, and it's that consistency as well. Obviously, the amount of Leinster players that they have in the team allows them to play at a consistent level. And also that the coaching staff have done a great job. You know, you got to put your hands up and say, you know, the world number one at the moment, you got to say, you know, that they've been able to be consistent. And also the thing that kind of, if you were to look at these stats before we kind of or normalise them, is what it's called. But basically, before we take the difference between the opposition, once we apply the opposition, Ireland played against the best teams in the world over the last 6 months, and yet they're still number one. So that's something that we need to think of.
Adds context.
Yeah, it's great. But again, the one thing we want to make sure is that we're gonna get injuries. You know what I mean? So, and we're gonna. I know you want to get onto Sexton, I'm sure. Well. But like when you look at the actual performance of the teams and you look at the way in which we play, there's less of a dependency on specific players to play the way we're playing. And that's what we're trying to do as well from an analytical perspective, is help teams understand that you don't have to depend on one specific player or position or skill set.
Or always pick what is perceived to be your strongest team, because other individuals can plug in if enough of the individuals.
Exactly.
If you don't make too many changes.
Yeah, and that's something that England really struggled with. You know, not just the fact that they weren't picking their best players. The consistency of those players was really, really poor. So, like, if we could, like, this is just a very high set of the data. But if we were to, zoom into the data, you'll see that the performance of England is way up and down, which means that they didn't know what they're doing, you know, as a team.
The one thing about the Welsh team is that they did have like a chronic series of injuries over the last 18 months, and Cameron named his Welsh team a little bit earlier on, and it's like, okay. Suddenly everybody is back together at the same time for this weekend, and it may be that it's very easy for them to get a significant jump and improvement in quality.
I don't think Gatland is really going to worry too much about this Six Nations. I think he's probably looking at the World Cup as a way of using this to bring his game plan back in, because there was a difference between Gatland's, ball and play, a lot of activity in the game, get to the breakdown quick enough, and try and force mistakes of your opposition. But then you had Pivac, who was very much a kind of nearly finesse. The ball in play was less, but the passes were longer. The distance of passes. So there's going to be a bit of transition between getting those players back, even though it's been only a couple of years. A lot of those players may not have actually played under Gatland before. So there's going to be a short period of time where those players are still figuring out what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, he could go back to the tried and tested this weekend. That's why the team selection is going to be very interesting, and that's why maybe this is Pivac data and the Gatland data might be different.
Yeah, 100%. Of course it will be. But we're talking about... the coaches at this level are not trying to make huge amounts of changes. The more amount of changes you make, the harder it is for 15 lads to do what it is they're supposed to do at every one time. So it's quite subtle. You look at Paul O'Connell when he came into the Irish setup, he's like, we're not trying to change what they're doing, we're just trying to improve what they're actually really good at.
Yeah, also...
And that's what Gatland's quite good at.
And in the Ireland, post Joe Schmidt and into Andy Farrell, there wasn't a whole heap of change at the start. It took a long time for that change to come through.
Yeah.
Okay, so the performances over the last few games, Wales versus Ireland,
So like the second slide then we're going to look at is just a kind of performance of the positions. So we split it into, we're trying to always kind of simplify the way in which the analysis goes. So we have front row, second row, back row, half back, centre back three, and we aggregate the quality of the performances for each team. And this way we can then see where one team is better and one team is worse. So you can see, for people that can't see this, basically our front row and second row, there's a slight improvement in front row between Ireland and Wales. Second row, there's a significant difference in quality between Wales and Ireland. But then the back row, it kind of it changes, where we have Wales slightly better than Ireland. And this is where injuries come into play, which is what players here are injured that would affect this. But overall, when we look at Ireland has better players in 4 of the positions, while Wales only has one specific position better than Ireland. So all of the data, all of the analysis would indicate that Ireland, if they play the way they're supposed to want to play, if they play and they hold on to the ball and they bring it through their forwards, they will eventually crack what Wales are trying to do.
The lines aren't wildly divergent, though. These are two fairly close teams.
To an untrained eye, Ger.
There you go. That's me, yeah.
Well, like if you look at the second row, there's a significant difference between the two.
Okay,
that's massive. So anything over 0.1 of a difference is something to take into consideration. So, like the centres, for instance, Wales are a little bit better, but that wouldn't be a massive gap. But the difference between the back three and the second row is significant.
Okay.
So this is just one of the graphics that we try to help coaches to help them better understand the difference between one team and another.
Okay. The other one of the big aspects that has kind of begun to explode properly is fantasy, and one of the things that consumers watching will be like, how do I pick my fantasy team?
Yes.
Use the data.
Well, the data. So just to take a look at the way in which fantasy currently exists in rugby, it's only the Six Nations is really the only game that's worth doing, and that's because the size of the competition. So what we've done is we're releasing a consumer product on reactrugby.com, and users can go in there and they can look at what type of players there is in Six Nations. So who's the best graded player, what type of player they are based on what they're doing. But we've also given them the ability to go in and see who's the best performer based on fantasy over 2 games. So we have 2 games of each: Ireland, England, France, Wales, Scotland, from the Autumn Nations Cup. We've thrown it into the system. We've actually taken the Ireland game from Ireland New Zealand in the third test, because there's more players playing in that than the Ireland Australia game. And basically all the games that we took from those Autumn Nations Cup, there's all the performance difference is quite small. So we didn't take England versus Japan, for instance. We took
the close
England,
games.
The really close games. So that has, just like the Six Nations. So users can go in here, and one thing that we've kind of tried to balance is the average number of points per game section. So this is something new. So we split every game into 6 sections: 3 first half. So start of the first half, middle way through the first half, and the end of the first half, and then same in the second half. And that's based on actual game time. So an average in the Autumn Nations Cup, the ball and time play was 30 minutes. Okay, and the average time on pitch was, I think it was 102 minutes.
Okay, it's a lot of the general instinct that people have is there's a lot of scrums and this game takes a long time.
Yes,
that's correct.
Oh yes, it's bizarre. And like you can try and see the World Rugby trying to bring in these new rules to try and improve the speed of ball and play, but unless you're going to implement it to all levels of the sport, those things don't tend to take on, because it takes too much organisation. But basically what we've done here is, so we've taken the total number of game points with the total number of game sections that a particular player has played, to show you the average number of game points per game section. So the idea here is we can show you how to build your team in fantasy based on positions. And what I would say to everybody is don't waste your time on spending points on your scrum halves. Although in real life, in real rugby, scrum halves are probably one of the most, maybe second most important position in the pitch. But in fantasy, they're not going to get you many points. Now, DuPont may get you points by scoring tries, but you don't get any points for passing the ball. You only get points for tackling, carrying over certain distances, and scoring tries, basically. So the data and the performance side of things do not match up to
the game.
The fantasy game.
Yeah.
So you could be a great fantasy player, but not. It mightn't be reflected in your player ratings for the match necessarily.
Or the other way around. You could be a great player and not get any.
Yeah, and that's what with that reactrugby.com. You'll need your username and password. It's the mobile version is a little bit of work to do, but be patient with us. But we're getting there, and we're going to be releasing data throughout the whole Six Nations in the same vein, which is trying to help people understand who's the best player based on data and analytics, and who's the best fantasy players based on their performance.
In terms of the actual performance, then, and you mentioned scrum half. Show us how the scrum halves all compare that are playing in the Six Nations.
Well, this is actually from the Autumn Nations Cup, actually. So I've talked to some pretty high-profile coaches about ruck speed and about what makes a good scrum half, and we just weren't getting the proper metrics. The whole ruck speed thing is
there a consensus? The coaches all say the same or similar?
Yeah. Well, see, the ruck speed thing has been taken out of context to a certain extent because
explain ruck speed for anybody. So
so a couple of years ago they wouldn't have been measuring this. So 2 or 3 years or 4 years ago, it's 4 second ruck speed. That's because they weren't measuring the time of ball placement to pass. So it wasn't, they weren't measuring the time stamp correctly.
So it doesn't.
Data isn't correct.
Up to this point, what we were measuring was the ball goes into the ruck and how long it takes from that point to it getting away from the ruck.
Yeah.
And that.
So what we've done is we've taken 3 metrics. So we take from when the ball placement is placed on the ground, so when the player stops moving basically, to when the pass is made. But we also take when the player is available to the ruck. So basically we have Jensen Gisborne Park gets to the ruck. As soon as he sets his feet, we give a timestamp. So then we can measure the distance between the ball placement and the passer. So this is the first sheet. So here, this is all the players from the Autumn Nations Cup. And basically by looking at it in this way, we can identify who's quickest to the ruck. Okay, so we got the Argentinian 9, Australia, Italy. So these players are getting to the ruck quickest. So I think we can see Conor Murray is 6th to speed to ruck. So he's getting to the ruck quick, one of the top guys. And he's getting there, so he's getting himself into position. So this is really important to understand who's getting there.
So it's funny, right? So the list for people again who are listening, Gonzalo Bertrano, is that how you use it? Bertrano?
Sure.
He's the Argentinian 9, and then after that it's Jake Gordon, and they're getting there 0.4 of a second, 0.5 of a second. Jake Gordon, Stephen Verney, Fakatava of New Zealand, and then Conor Murray is like joint 5th at 0.6 seconds. And then after that are players who you would have traditionally thought, those guys get to the ruck really fast. Mm-hmm. He's actually ahead of Gibson Park, he's ahead of Faf de Klerk, he's ahead of Aaron Smith, and he's ahead of Ben Youngs as well.
Yeah,
so that's a good thing, right?
That's a start. That's a starting point,
and that's what would have been measured in the past. Like it's
it would have been just the ruck speed.
Right.
So, but the ruck speed is dependent on the ball placer. It's dependent on the ruckers. It's dependent on other information that's not related to the scrum half.
Yeah,
is what our point was.
Antoine Dupont is a good bit back, actually.
Yeah.
On average.
So a lot of this data as well could be considered as to be by purpose, or part of strategy. Because Dupont will get to the breakdown, but he'll scan what's going on as he gets to the breakdown before he sets and makes his decision. So that's indicated here. But you can't have all scrum halves do that, because you don't want all scrum halves to have to make a decision. Excuse me. The vast majority of scrum halves are link plays or link players. That's all they should be doing, is getting to the breakdown and passing the ball to the guys outside them. But Dupont's a little bit different. He can scan after 3rd or 4th phase. He will scan and see where those weaknesses are before he makes a decision. So that's there's a reason behind why Dupont's a little bit slower to the breakdown.
It's funny when you immediately see the stat and you see arrival time at the breakdown as pretty fast. You think that's a good thing, but it's what happens next. It can have a knock-on effect.
Exactly, and so this is just in the opposition's half as well. So we're not taking into consideration
defensive.
Because it's not worth. And again, that's where ours is different. We go in and we extract out what is actually useful for a game plan rather than, just the ruck speed. You know what I mean? But then the next slide is the most important one, which is the actual speed of pass between the ball placement and the passer. And this is where, unfortunately, Conor Murray moves from being joint 6th, I think it was, down to 18th or second last. where his speed between the ball being available and actually passing the ball is significantly slower than the other players.
Now, it's interesting that Gibson Park is just ahead of him in that list. So Ali Price is ahead of him, and then Gibson Park is one ahead of him. So Gibson Park is 16th and Conor Murray's 18th. Is there any suggestion then that is by purpose? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it could be. But again, we once we start to get more and more data in this, and we should have enough by the end of the 5 games after Six Nations, then it no longer becomes by purpose. It becomes part of actual what it is they're trying to do. And whether or not that's inhibiting or improving what's happening in the game. The third thing that we kind of add to this then is speed onto ball. So when the player passes the ball, how fast is the player that receives the ball coming onto it? And that's the last slide then, which is in the opposition's 22, which Conor Murray then is again second last with an average speed of 3. So that means basically the players are stationary and moving onto the ball. Which it's a bit hard to show on the or over the radio, should I say? But what we're trying to say is that the effect of the player getting to the breakdown is good. The effect of the slow ball placement has effect on the players running onto the ball. Now again, it can be by design, because you got a 9 or a 10 who's trying to spread the ball in the opposition's 22, but fundamentally, how you get over the game line is by players running onto the ball, making ground after contact, and then building pressure that way. So it's just a different way that we've found having a much more accurate way of using the data to identify who's the best team passing in the opposition 22. Yeah, and that final graph as well, DuPont is much closer to the top than he is to the bottom. So there's been a change. It's like slow, quick. Yeah. So what happens is if a player gets the breakdown and is slow to pass the ball, what happens is the players that are receiving the ball overrun the ball. So they'll be expecting the ball half a second quicker. They'll take 2 or 3 seconds, and then they'll have to stop. So when the pass is actually made to them, they're actually stationary. And that's okay if it happens once or twice. But then once that changes, so they say, okay, we want to speed up the game. The players who already overrun the ball are now expecting to that same situation. So they're not sure whether or not they should be coming onto the ball quicker, or whether they should be stationary when they're getting the ball. So having a 9 that's able to give you a pass that brings you onto the ball is something that probably nobody else is really talking about, and it's just something that we think. Now again, this is just a very tiny part of the data that we collect and we calculate, but it's just something that we think can make coaches and people change their opinions of what's happening in the game. Okay, explain how that would work, right? So I'm a coach in the setup and you're showing me this. How do I fix that? How do you fix that? So it's quite simple. Like a lot of 9s fall into this category of hesitating when they get to the breakdown. It's pretty easy for me to say because I'm an analyst, I'm not a player. But at the end of the day, we're trying to help players and coaches improve. This the only purpose of this data is to help coaches and players improve. So you need to condition that in training. No, we would try to take, because this you could see it through Conor Murray's career. Where he came along and he was trying to be that trying to be the guy that DuPont is, which is trying to be able to change the way in which the game is played and try and help control the speed of the game. Then Joe Schmidt came along and was like, no, we just want you to get in, get the ball out as quickly as possible. And that's where he went through his best period. And then all of a sudden became a threat because he wasn't thinking of carrying or making any decisions. He was just passing. The defence forgot about him, and then he was able to pick and go and score tries off it. But he's gone back into that situation where he's trying to make a decision what to do rather than just getting the ball out of there. So, and it happens all levels of the game, all the way up from schools, all the way up through international, where it's a very simple, just get in and get the ball, be the connector, don't be the game, don't try and control the game from 9. You just want to be connecting the forwards and the backs, and that's how I would help that 9 to improve his speed of passing. Okay. Unless you have a world-class player like DuPont who you decide you're going to run the game through him, and then it's up to him to make those decisions. Yeah, but you got to earn that. You got to, DuPont is different. Like he's an outlier. Yeah, and
he's not looking to get change the game. He's just looking for specific instances. So if you wanted scrum halves to do that, you would take a little bit longer getting to the breakdown, but then you as soon as you make a decision, and you would only do it over a certain number of phases. So you'd only do it over, say, phase 4 or 5 until the opposition's defensive line has changed.
Okay.
And that's how you change. You know, you'd be looking for those. Okay, are we after the fourth phase? Is there any gaps in the breakdown? You know, what can I do to change that game? But it's easier said than done, I suppose.
Who's going to win the Six Nations?
Oh, Jesus. France.
Okay, right. Derek, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Ger.
That's Derek McNamara there from reactrugby.com. OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Up next, we have Deal or No Deal with Phil Egan. Here's what's on OTB Sports Radio for you today. Nigel Mansell at 1 o'clock, Dadcast at 3, Graham Souness with Keith Andrews at 4, and OTB Gold is Jason Sherlock at 6. The Athletics Brighton reporter Andy Naylor spoke with Adrian last night about Aaron Connolly and how it seems to be that the penny is dropping with him.
Hope things work out as the way they've started at Hull. I think what's significant there is he's got Liam Rosenior, who was at Brighton. So the culture at Brighton he knows really well, knows Aaron. I'd like to think that the penny has finally dropped with Aaron because, you know, the way he burst onto the scene, that the goals on his full debut against Spurs, wasn't it? Early on under Grant, and great things were expected. And let's say I think there's been a few distractions along the way, which probably haven't helped. Obviously, the loan Middlesbrough didn't go particularly well. Then this rather strange venture off to Venetia, and that didn't go well. But he's made a really encouraging start at Hull. Obviously, those 2 goals are doing a world of good. And who knows what the future holds for him. He's obviously the coach situation has changed. So Roberto De Zerbi wouldn't really have seen that much of him or had him within the group. So, this feels a bit like the last chance for saloon for Aaron. But if he continues, the way it started up at Hull, who knows? His career could turn around.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
OTB Sports Rugby.
He was trying so hard. Every kick off the boot, it was like he had no timing in the world. They were just like dead ducks flying across the air. And
subscribe to the rugby stream on the OTB Sports app now.
OTB AM
with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Hi, Royce, Matty Taylor. I can see him getting his car. I've decided to go to Bolt. I'm waving him going out the car park.
Just love moving teams, and then you have to do an initiation.
They just don't seem to be able to get deals over the line.
Right, it is time for the final deal or no deal of this transfer window because it closes tonight. We're going to start with some good news though. Evan Ferguson's injury not as bad as it might have been.
Yeah, that's what the Athletic are reporting, and yeah, there was a few rumours going around last night that he was chatting to a few of his teammates who were at the reserve game. There's obviously a lot of Irish players at the club now, so it doesn't look like it's too bad. And then you've got the other news on top of that from the PGMOL saying that Fabinho should have been sent off, which, I mean, we all knew that as soon as it happened.
Cheers, lads. Yeah, thanks.
I think it was interesting though, like listening to Lowry yesterday, who was saying that, like, essentially that VAR likes the referees to referee, but the referee is like, oh, if I miss this, VAR will get it for me, so it doesn't really matter. And then you fall between the two stools, and it's like, well, somebody just needs to, like, how are we doing this today?
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything, and if I'm going to ref as I see it, you overrule me. And my ego is not going to be, oh, I've changed my mind. My ego will be like, we got the right decision.
Yeah. That's the way, that's the common sense approach that should be used. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head there when you talked about egos, and the on-field referee might miss something.
Yeah.
Just could be at a bad angle. You mightn't see something from, and then obviously if you have the benefit of 6 or 7 replays, All you would have needed is one replay.
Well, Laura was saying yesterday he's a mate of Neil Swarbrick, who was the VAR official, and he said he just wanted to let the referees referee. But sure, referees are fallible. They're human beings. They can make mistakes. So the VAR official, he should have been set to the monitor to view it at the very least a second time.
Absolutely.
And then he would have given the red card, you'd imagine.
100% would have given the red card.
What's
you
the
hope
point?
so. You hope so. I mean, it definitely like
it's a shocking tackle.
Yeah, not great. Okay, so we don't know what that means. Like Nathan was saying that there was a fear that it could have even been an ACL.
Yeah.
So not as bad as it might have been. Is like we're still.
Yeah, let's wait till we hear Roberto De Zerbi say Evan Ferguson will be back.
Yeah.
In this time,
because obviously the France game is looming large.
Yeah.
And he was definitely playing. He was definitely starting that game.
Well,
he is currently our best and most informed player.
Yeah, and
is there anybody else in this good form as him at the moment?
We get very excited when we have young players that start in the Premier League. So he ticked that box, but then he started scoring. So and like that goal.
Steady on here, Evan.
I don't know
our
how many
heart's not going to
times
be able to take this.
That goal against Leicester, the header. I kept watching it back on
what a header!
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Jesus!
I even watching him the other day. When I turned on the game the other day and he's standing there in the tunnel and you're just looking at him going, this guy's 18, but look at the size of
presence. Yeah.
The French don't know
what. He's 6'2". Is he 6'2", 6'1" maybe?
Somebody, Adrian was asking last night, is he only 6 foot? And David played golf with him recently enough. That's
he was looking up at me.
That might never happen.
Yeah.
He was looking up at you.
He was, yeah. He was like this.
Was he sitting down or something?
He is a big lad, but this whole. There are taller players than him in the Brighton team, for example. Yeah. He's the big lad up front.
Luke Shaw, there's this theory that Luke Shaw's over 6 foot. So I need to see when Brighton play United, Luke Shaw standing beside Evan Ferguson. Let's see what happens.
Okay, some Irish transfers. Katie McCabe has been linked with Chelsea. She still has 18 months left on her current contract. Arsenal have said this is not going to happen.
No.
They haven't spoken to her about it. Now, that's what you would say if you were trying to drive the price up at the last minute.
Well, Emma Hayes as well, the Chelsea manager, said we won't be doing any deals before the end of the... So everybody is saying the right thing.
In the meantime, though, Arsenal are being linked with spending loads of money on Man United's best player. So there might be a swing.
I know, yeah. When I saw that, the world record bid for Alessia Russo, who's out of contract in the summer and has been linked with a move to Arsenal
Her contract negotiations have been going on for an absolute era at Old Trafford.
Yeah, and it's strange when United are on the up. They're top of the WSL at the moment. There's a good title race there at the moment. Arsenal are 3 points behind United and Chelsea. So United ahead of Chelsea in goal difference. Arsenal have a game in hand, but we're only at the halfway stage. Now, Chelsea are the ones that tend to get the job done as they did last season on the final day. So,
well, she's apparently a Chelsea fan, Katie McCabe. Does that have an impact?
I don't know, but look, from an Irish point of view, Katie McCabe is an elite footballer. Obviously, it's a massive year for the Irish women's team. The great news as well that the opening game is going to have more than 80,000 on it, which is just unbelievable. And we just want Katie McCabe to be playing. She plays week in, week out for Arsenal. Strangely enough, actually, she was left on the bench. She came on against Chelsea. She didn't start that game, which was very strange, considering she starts all the time.
Yeah. Rihanna Jarrett has left London City Lionesses by mutual consent. Is there a possibility she ends up back here?
Well, she said she wants to come home and start enjoying her football again. So obviously her links are Wexford. She had a very good spell with Wexford, which got her move across. She's had awful problems with injuries, 3 ACL injuries. I mean, it's incredible that she keeps bouncing back. So a lot of people would think, right, Ireland International coming back to Ireland. There's a new club that are signing Irish internationals.
They're signing everyone, sure.
So Rovers is a possibility.
Who knows? But
okay, we'll wait and see.
As I said, the important thing for Rihanna is to get back playing football and, as she said, enjoying her football.
Yeah, and obviously available now. So, to the Premier League, Anthony Gordon to Newcastle is confirmed. How good a deal is this for everybody?
It's a great deal for Anthony Gordon. He gets out of a relegation scrap. He goes to a club that are on the up, are just going to keep getting better. They're in the mix for a Champions League spot. And there's definitely a place in that team for him because, I look at someone like Joe Willock who plays on the left-hand side. Anthony Gordon could be looking at him thinking, yeah, I can take his place. He could play on the right as well. So it's up to him now. Eddie Howe has done such a good job since he's come in, and he's got
he's trying to build a bit of depth, but he also, because they're doing so well, that if players sign for the club and they're not up to it or their attitude is wrong, they're shipped out.
Yeah.
Now, one thing he's going to learn is that they're probably getting good wages now, so it might be hard to move some players on because they see Newcastle and they think, right, if I can get in there, I'm set for life.
Absolutely. So it's a big challenge to him to try and get in that team. He seems to be capable of performing at a level to get into the team.
Yeah.
And Eddie Howe so far has been managing those careers generally really well. So maybe it's a great move, but it's not nailed on, is it?
No, it's hard to tell because he's had such a short window in terms of what we've seen of him at Everton, and this is an Everton team that weren't going well and haven't been going well, but he has caught the eye. Lampard then started leaving him out towards the end of his tenure. So, but I think of when Everton were digging out results last season, Anthony Gordon was definitely one of their better players. Richarlison was the player that got them out of trouble in my eyes anyway.
Must be nice to be leaving a team in relegation battle for a team in a League Cup semi-final and fighting for Champions League spots in Europe as well.
That's it. That's why it's a good deal for
100%. And it's a good day for the accountants at Everton as well, balancing the books. 45 million in for Anthony Gordon and potentially spending it straight away, 45 million for Conor Gallagher.
Yeah, I don't think he wants it.
Right.
Like we mentioned relegation scrap, he's thinking, I don't need that. He was at Palace last season. He had a really good season. He's gone back to Chelsea thinking maybe I can kick on, but unfortunately Chelsea are just a bit of a shambles at the moment. They're signing all these players.
Yeah.
You know the way you guys do your depth charts, Graham Potter's depth chart, like he's just got so many names.
Yeah.
So he's just trying to work out what his best team is.
I actually had forgotten about João Felix yesterday. I mean, I remember and I remember the red card, but I was only afterwards like, oh yeah, of course, because the Mudryk stories obviously has landed himself in hot water, rightfully so, and you're like, oh, is everybody going to arrive, get a ban, miss a few games, and the squad is big enough for you not to notice?
That's it. They've such a massive squad, and obviously all eyes are going to be on them today to see can they get that Fernandes deal done.
And Jorginho, at the moment, is being linked with Arsenal, which would be a really interesting move from Arsenal's perspective to be able to sign somebody from a rival in this instance again. Now, I'm not sure Jorginho is going to play a lot of football in the starting team, is he?
No, he would be brought in as cover for Thomas Partey, and obviously Arsenal want to get the Caicedo deal done, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So then they bring in Jorginho, who, when Arteta was at City with Pep Guardiola, they looked nailed on to sign him. So obviously Arteta is fond of him, and I could see how he would work in the Arsenal team. Arsenal at the moment, the way they zip the ball around, everything would go through Jorginho. He wouldn't be as strong physically as Partey in terms of I would see him as a bit of a liability defensively if you can get at him. But at the moment, not many teams are getting at Arsenal because they own the ball. So it definitely would suit him. And I know you said that Arsenal would be getting from a rival, but right now Chelsea aren't even considered a rival for Arsenal. And he's out of contract in the summer. They have to start getting rid of players, Chelsea.
Yeah, really urgently. There is huge news coming through from Manchester City. It looks like João Cancelo, who we were all wondering what's happened here, one of the most important players in the team last season, perfect for that kind of, it's actually somebody who can control the game from full-back at various stages when you're in possession. Seems to have had a massive row with Pep to the point where Pep is sending him to Bayern Munich on loan for the rest of the season.
I know, and it seems
a giant crack in the whole everything is great, everybody loves us, everything is straightforward. It's not.
This is very much, there's nobody bigger in the team. Pep is in control, and it's something that if City don't win the league, it'll be brought up. And you think, like you mentioned, obviously his ability on the ball, he's a great finisher, but also when he plays on the left, that cross that he can just curl in. But it stems from the Chelsea game apparently, where he got taken off at half time. Pep did a Pep in the first half against Chelsea in the league game where he played Cancelo in midfield, which Cancelo was comfortable in that area of the pitch, but he was playing ahead of Kyle Walker. It didn't work. Chelsea actually had a decent first half. Then Pep says, right, I'm going to change things at half time. Cancelo, you're off. And never really recovered from that, and has been left on the bench for the last few games, and is just obviously voiced.
It's a big move.
Yeah, like from the reports of Sam Lee in The Athletic is saying that he sat in meetings and just looked disinterested and almost sulked, and now Pep has just said, "Get out of my sight. Good luck." There's also some reports in Portugal that they're talking of letting Bernardo Silva go, but that seems to always emerge.
Yeah.
And it never happens. But
links.
Yeah, this could be a great day for Arsenal.
Harry Maguire is obviously looking at the situation of some of his former centre-back colleagues and predecessors at Manchester United. They've reinvented themselves in Italy, and Inter Milan apparently made an inquiry. If I'm Harry Maguire, I'm thinking, Inter Milan's not a bad team, I can get out of here. And if you're Man United, are you thinking, yeah, let's do this,
on you go.
This year is over, the banter bus here at Manchester United is done, away we go.
Absolutely. And it looks like Skriniar is leaving Inter to go to PSG. And it goes back to something that we've talked about before. When you're looking to sign for a club, find out what exactly the way they play, what formations they play. They tend to play three at the back. So Maguire could be one of three, which would suit him. And Chris Smalling is the example of somebody that left Manchester United, went to Roma, has made over 100 appearances for Roma. Actually
fluent in Italian as well.
Yeah, I like the thoughts of Harry Maguire in a couple of years given a passionate
Italian
post-match interview in Italian.
Oh yeah,
after scoring an important goal in the derby to keep Inter top of Serie A.
Do you know who else I'd love to hear it speaking Italian soon is Phil Jones.
Yeah,
get him out the gap. That man's making £75,000 a week.
You can't be. That's not his fault. That is not his fault. He's entitled to every single penny of that. He should sit it out. Get
rid of him.
No, but it's Man United's fault.
And look, this
That's
is what
Man United's fault. They gave him the contract. Why shouldn't he take that money? That money's his. He's earned it.
His contract will be up soon enough. But Jesus, he's not the quotes from Ten Hag this week. He says the whole season he's been injured. What I can say, he's not available for training. Hasn't been since the first day of training this season. Then the opportunity that you recover quickly also goes. Bit of a dig.
Yeah, but look, these are the problems Ten Hag has inherited, but he's handling them very well.
Yeah, it's not his fault, of course.
So, no, absolutely. And Phil Jones will be gone soon enough. And
who takes him?
But in terms of Harry Maguire, it would be a good move from him. As Inter are... Look, they're second in Serie A at the moment.
Yeah.
Napoli are going to walk the league.
Inter is a totally acceptable get out of Manchester United, because there's not that many situations you can go to where people aren't looking at him going, "Oh, what are you?" If all around England.
Kind of the limelight as well. But I wonder though, what does it do for his England career? Because in fairness to Gareth Southgate, he has stood by Harry Maguire. I think he had an okay World Cup.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that maybe if England want to actually go about winning the tournament, they need a bit more from that position.
Yeah. I don't know if it's there though. I don't know if they actually have the centre halves at the moment.
You need to develop some of them.
I mean, people are talking about Tomori, but AC Milan at the moment are leaking goals.
Beaten 5-2 or 6-2 by Sassuolo at home at the weekend.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
Lost 4-0 to Lazio last week. Lost 3-0 to Inter in the Super Cup.
That is one of those where you're going, I mean, wow.
But if he goes to Inter, he's going to be part of a team that challenges for the title. I know Napoli are going to walk.
Champions League football all the time.
Yeah, and Napoli are going to walk it. But the problem is, and kind of the general thing we're going to see today is the stupid amount of money that's in the Premier League compared to the rest of Europe, where that Napoli team are a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And the worry is at the end of the season, they're going to be absolutely raided. Like the likes of Osimhen gone, Kvaratskhelia gone.
Maybe because they win the league, they'll be able to keep them in a way that previous generations haven't. We'll wait and see. Anything else, anything left field that you might expect to happen today that isn't on the list of stuff?
No, I think there's going to be, obviously, it's going to be loan deals. I'll be keeping an eye on Everton. Obviously, you mentioned they have to sign a few players.
There's loads of good value to be had raiding Chelsea's reserve team at the moment. That if you were a team kind of in that 6 to 10 and you get Conor Gallagher, that's good.
Absolutely. I think with Gallagher, we haven't seen enough of him to suggest that he is
Champions League level.
Yeah, but we haven't seen enough of him yet playing in a functional team that is at that level.
Okay, all right. 9:38 this morning. Jody Moylan says, on the Cantona debate, he was my favourite player as a youth, bar none, but it's actually true that he never did it in Europe. Iconic, cool as fuck, but not truly great. Better than Beckham though. Mark C says Wales is a tough game this weekend, and Brian Griffin wants to know, will Owen Sheehan be dialing in live from South America at some stage this week to rile up the Welsh ahead of Saturday? We'll put the request out to see if he can record us an now message from the 17th story of the Bogota nightclub he's in.
Chatting to Owen last week on text, he was thanking me for correcting Tommy Rooney's pronunciation. So Tommy came on the Power Rankings last week, just to call him out here, and he said Owen had been on his way to a nightclub in Medellin. But of course it was Medellin. Tommy, but that's the King's Court kind of pronunciation.
Sorry, I subsequently had a text from Owen to say you had also butchered it. You with your...
I had butchered it?
You with your colonial Spanish...
Medellin. What way do you want to say it?
Medellin.
Right.
He said mine was perfect.
Here. Well, Tommy's was the worst of the three.
But you're also wrong. Again.
Well, Medellin is a better effort than Medellin, isn't it?
Take the L. No, because...
Medellin, hey.
Oh, well, sorry. That's like, the colonial superpower gets to decide the name of the town they arrive in. Do they, Shane? Valley Bay?
No.
Have you seen translations? Right, OTB AM brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. Medellin. Tomorrow, Keith Wood and Jonathan Davis together, ex-Chelsea and Liverpool defender Gilly Flaherty, hurling power rankings, a final deal or no deal of the window with Phil here, if you're up for that, Phil.
Yeah.
Colin hasn't asked you yet, but I've just asked you.
The thing is, I don't think I'm going to stay up and watch it, so I look forward to getting up tomorrow morning and see
what happened.
Did these deals go through or not.
Finally, for now, the Adrian Barry and Kevin Kilban bromance continued last night on the show. Enjoy.
Before all of that, let's get to Canada. Kevin Kilban, come on in.
Hi Adrian, how you getting on?
What's happening?
It's all quiet. Just had plenty of snow in the last few days. Temperatures have plummeted. We're around -8 to 9 today, so
very good.
I think we're going to get colder week, and it's our birthday week as well. So yeah, big birthday week in the house, you know.
Whose birthday is it?
We don't want to talk about it.
Come on now. Yeah, these are the sort of exclusives you give to VIP. Come on now. Or hello.
Well, mine's... shut up. Mine's Wednesday. Brianne's is Thursday, and Olivia's is Friday.
Amazing. 46?
So big week.
46?
I don't. As I said, that I definitely don't want to talk about that.
We're both in the same track here, Kev.
Yeah.
It's not. I can't disassociate myself.
77.
Good man.
Yeah, 46, getting on now. Yeah.
Will you do anything special for it, or is it just you're too busy with snow and kids?
In kids, yeah, that's probably more to the point. No, I think Brie and I are going out for a bit of dinner on Wednesday for my birthday. She's kind of discarding her birthday. She doesn't want to talk about that, so she's letting that one slide, you know. So Wednesday, I think we'll go out, a few drinks and a bit of dinner. I think more like late afternoon, early evening. I think, and then we'll be back home. You know yourself, Aidan. You know how it is these days. You know?
I don't. You're a far better social life than I have. So what sort of what?
Oh, geez, no chance. I have no social life.
Same. What sort of food will you go for?
I think we're going to a steakhouse. So it'll be steak and maybe a little bit of red or something like that. Nice. So we'll see. We'll see what we'll go for. I mean, I've not got the fine wine taste like your good self, Adrian. You know, but I'll do my best. I'll do my best. You know.
What, you've been busy out snow ploughing, have you?
Yeah, it's been. Yeah, it's come down. So it's that's something that's very new to me. Yeah, you have to clear the driveways, or you get fined and things like that. You have to clean the sidewalks and things like that. Yeah, so. Just obviously to keep everything right for people walking by and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of new to me. Yeah.
So what, you're out with the shovel, are you?
Yeah, the shovel, the snow shovel. Yeah. So getting out with that, it's a good workout. It's good in the morning when you get up. Actually,
I wonder who's doing it. I wonder who's doing it. I have my doubts.
Well, no, Brie actually likes to do it a lot more than me, to be honest with you. But I get out. I like to do it. You know yourself. You've got to get out. You've got to get a bit of a workout in if you can. Because I'm hardly going to the gym. When I was away at the World Cup, it was great. I was able to go to the gym for a month, tried to get myself healthy a little bit. And since I've been back, I've done zilch, done absolutely nothing. You can't get there.
Yeah, well, look, we're just delighted to have you on, Kev. It's been so long. It could have been, in fact, the World Cup since we talked to you last. So, when I heard you were coming on, I said, listen, clear the decks. Joe Malloy, get out of town. Make space. I need to come in and chat to this man.
The only reason why I'm on is because of you, Adrian. You know, the alpha dog in town. You know, so once the big man comes into play, you know, I'm going to say congratulations to Joe as well. I don't know if he's trying to keep that quiet, is he? But
yeah, I wouldn't say too much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's
congratulations to Joe and Phoebe.
Moving,
that's what I would say.
I'm getting the head shake from outside the box here, so we'll move on.
I'll say you can put it on my shoulders.
Come here. What the people are going to be roaring at us now? Get into the football, and we'll do that. But you must have been impressed. Were you watching Mayo the other night, or were you just tweeting about it?
No, I seen the highlights and things like it. It's hard to get up the coverage and things like that, actually. So I saw James Carr's goal and things like that. I didn't see the game. I didn't see it. What a goal, eh? What a goal. Good start as well. The bits that I saw, everything, it looked like and again, you're reading a lot on Twitter and you're kind of picking up the vibe that it was a brilliant game, certainly for it being January. Brilliant start to the season. I actually read your good selves tweet as well. So it was, it's nice to get the season up and running for them. And that's the thing that I miss. I used to go to a lot of the league games. I used to go and watch throughout the season. So, you get to the games around the country. That was great when we used to go and see them. So that's something that I missed, actually. It was great to get out and see them.
You just can't beat it. We've loads to get into, right? So let's get into it. And if anybody has any questions or comments on YouTube, do fire them in as well over the course of the next little while. I might ask you first of all about Everton. I want to come to talk about Evan Ferguson. We're sort of obviously being mildly obsessed with him now at the minute. But we might just ask you about Everton to begin with, Kev. Sean Dyche confirmed today. Has that appointment given you? It was expected, obviously. Has it given you hope?
I just hope that there isn't that real negative feeling towards him straight away because of how Burnley played. I mean, I actually have been in total admiration of what he did at Burnley over the years, and even the style of football they were playing at times probably went under the radar a little bit. I think a lot of the games that were always shown on Super Sunday were kind of dull games. I think that's where people got a lot of opinion of Burnley. But a lot of the time they were playing good football, they were solid, difficult to beat, and I think that's the most important thing now for Everton in the next few months is certainly be difficult to beat, get the points on the board, get well organised, and don't be too open and too elaborate. I think that's the way it's got to be for the next while, because most important thing now is we go back maybe to this stage last season is staying in the Premier League, and it kills me to say it at times, really, the way that Everton have spent over the last 6 or 7 years and everything that's gone into that club to see them in the position that they are, because I think everybody recognises that they should be a lot higher than what they are. But over the course of the season, they're one of the worst teams in the Premier League. They've been poor to watch. They've showed very little going forward, and defensively, it's been as bad as you've seen from Everton sides in a while. So I think Dyche will certainly sort that out. I think his know-how of one or two players that's in that club as well, who obviously he brought through at Burnley and give Premier League games to. So I think that will help. But there's a lot to come from that side, I think, even without Sean Dyche, whether it was him or not. There's a lot more to come from that side because of the talent that's in that dressing room.
The concern, they remind me a little bit of Ireland in some ways, Kevin, that like no matter how organised they can get defensively, and they do obviously need to tighten up in defence, no matter how well they can get organised there, they've obviously had so much change in terms of their ability to score a goal over the last 9 months, I suppose, in total, between Richarlison going, they've missed out on Danjuma, of course, the Spurs. Maupay just isn't doing it for them, and Calvert-Lewin can't stay fit. Like that ability, and the window's about to shut, obviously, so there's not going to be anybody coming in, I don't think. That ability to score goals, that's going to be the tough bit for him.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see if they can do a little bit of business before the window closes. That will be the most important thing, I think, for Sean Dyche right now. I know that Dyche last time when he was in for the Everton job, I'm not too sure if it was the last time when Lampard got the job. I think it was before that, maybe when Benitez got the job. I think he didn't get the job actually from the amount of staff that he wanted to bring across from Burnley. I think that was the sticking point for him getting the job. So he's obviously come to an arrangement on how he's going to get his own staff incorporated into that dressing room and around the team. I think it's extremely important for him to do that. So I think with him, as I said, maybe get one or two signings in if he can. If not, I don't think it's a big deal because of the talent that's in that dressing room. But you talked about going forward for Everton. You always feel if Everton are going to win a game recently, it's always they've got to win a game 1-0. And if you're going out with that, it's not so much the mentality, but if that's the case in every match, you've got to win a game 1-0. It's never going to happen because you are going to concede. And Everton have been pretty poor defensively. They haven't looked organised. I don't feel when I've seen them play. I think they've been far too open. Considering the position that they're in, if everything's going quite well, you can play a bit more expansive. But I think Everton have played that expansive way when they've been in trouble, and that only leads to nervousness around the pitch. Players don't necessarily want to take the ball, or when they do take the ball, the first touch isn't quite right. And that's what I felt with a number of players defensively when they've been taking the ball and putting themselves under pressure and giving up chances. So I think that's something that Dyche will probably sort. I think you'll probably see more of a back four intact if he does play with a four, which in general he's done at Burnley. And I think it will be from a solid base where he will try to create going forward. I mean, as I said, it's that negative feeling that they had when Allardyce took over on that short-term basis a few seasons ago now. It was, we're playing direct football. We're playing almost boring football is what the thoughts was. I hope that's not going to be the case in the feeling towards Sean Dyche. I feel as though that he will get them organised. He will get them settled. And I think they can build over a number of years now. I think that's what I'm hoping for Everton going forward.
Yeah, he signed a 2.5-year contract. So at least, I mean, I'm sure Everton fans at the minute, and maybe there's a fatalistic amongst them who believe they're going down no matter what happens. But at least he's there to try and cope with if that does happen, with getting them back up again. Just like he obviously, there was that situation.
I'm not being. I just want to no, that one. Everton can't go down, AJ. I'm not being funny now. For what they've spent, the expenditure over the last few years, and financial fair play came into them, how they had to sell Richarlison. If Everton went down, it'd be catastrophic for them. I don't think it would be a case of just going down to come straight back up. I really feel strongly about that. Everton can't go down this year, and they have to build from a Premier League position rather than from a starting position in the Championship.
Hard to see the evidence for it at the minute. Are you as passionate as and as put out by the ownership then as much as the fans are? Obviously, I think most of them weren't even giving Lampard so much of a hard time as they were the board and the owners.
Yeah, well, it's been more of how that money has been spent, and I didn't see too much, too much distress or too many people screaming and shouting when one or two of those signings were going into the place. But it was more the wage bill. The wage bill from Everton. Richarlison was on 7-8 million a year. This is the thing that a lot of Evertonians really can't get their head around. Everton were competing with Arsenal from wages point of view. They were paying 150, 160 grand a week to players. This is going from the days of Everton being quite stable and keeping the house run well. It wasn't the case for them in the last few years. It's just been more the wages where everybody knew Everton had money, so they were able to pay the transfer fees, starting off. And then the wage bill, as I said, was going from the top earner, probably when Moshiri took over, 60, 70,000 a week to 3 times that by the time we get in 6 or 7 years down the line. That's the thing where you're looking at, and how Everton have been probably misinformed on how they're actually going about the business.
Yeah, he had that Dyche about 9 months ago. And he was at Burnley half-time. They're 2-1 down to Everton. It was reported on at the time, and he said, I don't think these lads know how to win a game, which in hindsight might not have been. He'll be talking to a lot of the same players, obviously, when he's in the dressing room now. Yeah. He also has a terrible start, Kev. He's got Arsenal on Saturday and a Merseyside derby 9 days later. It's Jesus. They talk about a honeymoon period. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, well, Liverpool are struggling. The only way you look at it, Liverpool are struggling as well. They're not in a great position, but they're still in obviously a lot more comfortable position in the Premier League coming into that derby. The Arsenal game, of course, if they can get anything out of it, it'll be a bonus, like everyone always says, the old cliche with that one. But I can't see them taking anything from that Arsenal game. The tempo that Arsenal are playing at, the way that Mikel Arteta's got them playing. So it will be about maybe getting something from that derby game, and it's possible. Everton have got results in the derby over the years when they haven't necessarily been playing well and things have been going against them. It certainly gives Sean Dyche a bit of time between now and then to get something in place to try to pick the pocket of Liverpool a little bit. There's going to be a result or a game that's going to be a catalyst to get you back up the table. It's got to be that Liverpool game.
We're very excited about Evan Ferguson. We're all on Evan Ferguson watch at the minute. He's had another very impressive display for Brighton against Liverpool in the Cup of the weekend, and then obviously got that I was going to describe it as unfortunate injury towards the end, but it was just a desperate tackle. It must be said. How it didn't result in a red card is beyond me. We'll put that aside to 1 second at the minute if we can. What's your sense about the ceiling for this guy?
I mean, you look at his age. That's the thing that you're looking at right now, and he's been managed really well since he's signed there at Brighton. I think he's certainly been a player that's been allowed to go and flourish. He's not necessarily been given a lot of game time up until recently, and I think that's always the best way to go about it. But he's obviously been impressing in training. He's obviously been pushing one or two of the other guys that's been around him. Physically, it's something, I'd be relying upon Dan McDonnell over the years to give me a bit of information on one or two of these young players. I'll have a few of the other guys calling me now to tell me that they should be going to them. But Dan's well informed on certainly the youth structure in Ireland, and a lot of the young players, when you hear the name around them, the hype can be, as we all do it, we're all guilty of it. We build up a player too much at times. But I think it's been fairly consistent on Evan Ferguson about, physically, totally able, and that's been the case since he's been a very young boy. He's been able to deal with a lot physically, and certainly going into the professional environment, that would help him physically. But there's way more to his game than just the physical side of it. His first touch, his awareness. I like the way at times where he can come off, he can take the ball, he gets turned, he can run at defenders. The header that he scored, the late header against Leicester, wasn't it, a couple of weeks ago? Look at the position that he was in and his ability to arrive late into the penalty area. It was an amazing header, a great header that he scored in that game. So I like what I'm seeing. You can't. I don't think there's anyone that would be watching right now, yourself included, Adrian, where we can't say we like what we see. He's in pole position he was. We're hoping this injury is not going to be as serious as being reported right now. But he's in pole position to start for Stephen Kenny. That's the position that he put himself into now. We've got nobody scoring goals at the level that he's scoring at. We've got nobody playing as consistently as he's been playing at over the last month or so. But there's always a reluctance because they're so young to say, let's put them in. And, whether or not Stephen Kenny was seriously considering starting him, he was a shoo-in for the squad, wasn't he? I think we all recognise that right now. And we're hoping that, as I said, given a bit of time to flourish, given more game time, given he's scoring more goals, the confidence will surely rise with him. He's going to get better and better, and you just hope that with that exposure that he's been given now, he's been given exposure to top class players on a daily basis that he's training with. He will get better and better. I'm sure of that. Watching
him yesterday, given that stuff that you spoken about there, the range of abilities that he has, it's just exceptional. That sort of back to play piece, the feeding in players around him. He can come a bit deep if needs be. He can his awareness, his ability to sort of point to far more senior players around him. Here's where I want the ball, put me in. His thirst, his hunger to get out and want to be on the ball. He's not sort of shying away from it. And it's 1-1 yesterday. They're 1-0 down. He's front and centre looking for possession, which is very impressive. Now, all of that in the Irish context, our greatest need is obviously somebody to stick the thing in the back of the net. What, any sort of sense, or if you're Stephen Kenny, given that he can do a little bit of everything, how do we best utilise his ability to stick it in the net?
And it's the creativity that comes with that, Adrian. We that saying that keeps doing me head in, really. We don't have a Robbie Keane and things like that, but yes, Robbie at times was only getting 1 and 2 chances a game, and that might be the case, that he's got to find the consistency of taking his chances when he might not necessarily get a lot of them in the game, and that's got to be something that I'm sure that he's looking at now with him coming into the international setup. That might be the case at times, but consistently, I think under Stephen Kenny we have created more. Putting him in a position where if we're getting into wide areas and we're putting decent balls into the penalty area, he can go and attack crosses. He can certainly, as you say there, Adrian, with his back to play, I think is exceptional from him because of that physical nature where he can use his back, he can use his backside to back into players and come away with the ball and then be released into other areas where he can be more effective. And having those sort of talents that he's got, I think he will bring the best out of other players around him, because I think our big issue is, certainly under Stephen Kenny, is getting us up the pitch. We keep the ball well in our own in the defensive third, in the middle third of the pitch. We've been keeping the ball reasonably well, I think, at times. But it's when we've got into the final third where we've missed that link guy to get hold of the ball, to get turned, to maybe hold on to the ball for 2 or 3 seconds to get other players in support of him. That's the one thing we've lacked. And
would you put a premium?
He can be that guy.
Would you put a premium on that, Kev? That's really the question I'm asking. Is does Stephen Kenny say, listen, at all costs, do not come beyond this position. I don't want you coming deep. I need you up there. I need somebody to put the ball in the net. Or how specific can he be with him in terms of the demands on him?
I don't think that's going to be the case, no, because you watch him at Brighton. I spoke about coming off defenders to take the ball, and if he can come off defenders and take the ball, that's obviously coming to a deeper position. You're expecting runners off him if that's going to be the case. If he can get, as I said before, if he can get hold of the ball I would always look at strikers at times. The old one that would have been said to us coming through, strikers take 2 touches, 2 or more if possible at times. Sometimes you're going to have to play it off first time, look for little 1-2s in certain areas. But by taking 2 touches at times, it just gives the rest of the players a bit of time to adjust to you. And I think that might be the case with Evan Ferguson. So if he's coming off, if he takes the ball, whether or not he gets turned, he can run at defenders, or even if it's just 2 touches holding a defender off, the rest of the play can build up on the other side of the pitch. If it's coming from a left back into his feet, he can actually turn out the other way and get playing with support from that side of the field. And that's, as I said, I don't think we've had that. I don't think we've had that link guy. And if he's going to play up top as a number 9, then we can play direct. I've got no problems about playing direct at times, turning opposition, getting the ball into his feet so he can be physical up against defenders. I think that's something that's overlooked when we're looking at how we play as an Irish side and what can bring the best out of players. But I do feel, though, that certainly getting hold of the ball, playing it into wide areas, and that ability to arrive late, I think that's where goals might come from him.
Yeah, he needs to work on his when he's getting the contact. He needs to go to the Jack Grealish school of here's how to win a free. I was watching him a couple of times yesterday, and there was definitely a little bit of contact, but he just wasn't.
That's the Irish rawness, isn't it? That's our rawness that we have. Don't stay on your feet. But you know yourself, at times it might be critical for getting free kicks around the penalty area in the final third, holding onto the ball, take that contact, just go over, get the free kick, and then we can actually build from that from set pieces, because it's a strength of ours. So
obviously we don't know about the injury. Potentially he's out for the France game. We've the Latvia friendly in March, and then the qualifier against France obviously in the same window, and then a bit of a break until the games that come our way in June again. But we're dealing with a hypothetical here, because it does, by all indications, are.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
If he is fit, let's say for those games, or if he's fit for the June games that follow, then are you just putting him straight in, Kev, at this stage?
Yes, I would. As I said, there's nobody doing what he's doing at the level that he's at, the maturity that he's showing as well. I've seen a few of his interviews post-match as well, and I've been impressed with what he's saying. He knows himself. The thing that he keeps on saying is, I need to work hard in training, and I need to work hard when I'm getting my chance on the pitch. That's what it's all about. It's not rocket science at times when it comes to that. Yes, the technical aspect comes into it, but it is about his work rate and how he can maintain his place in the team right now. And that
OTB AM
with Gillette. Get into your flow with the new Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.